to the South African Airways Pilots Association and the National Transport Movement Pilots Forum have downed tools over a wage dispute. Workers are demanding a 15% wage increase as well as benefits, while the employer, SAA, is offering 8%. The strike action is likely to affect flight operations ahead of the festive season. The SAPA's captain, Sibusiso Nxumalo, says they are struggling as most workers got up to 50% salary cuts during the business rescue process.
Actually deeply regret having to undergo this position, but this is the last resort that we had to push in order for us to have a meaningful discussion with the company. So at this stage, we're hoping that the company tries and gets us back into the table so we can engage on this further, cease the strike, or potentially suspend it until a later date, or even getting an agreement with the company that will put us back into those aircraft. We want to fly. We do not want to be out here. We are aware that all the international flights will not be able to get off the ground. We are aware that most regional flights will not be able to get the ground, and we've just got word that the company is actually seeking to charter other airlines to assist in their operations.
National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula has visited the abandoned mine shaft in Sabi, Mpumalanga, to check on the progress of an operation to retrieve over 100 illegal miners underground. During yesterday's operations, 8 illegal miners were brought to the surface and the bodies of 3 deceased illegal miners were retrieved. Masemula elaborates.
At present moment, we are looking at various resources that can be of assistance, be it from government or private sector. We must say the situation here is different, unlike in Stelfontein, which is several kilometers going deep down. Here, we are told is about 150 meters going down. This operation is conducted with the utmost care and precision which it deserved, and we will also make a stopover at Stelfontein when we leave here.
Members of the All-African Alliance movement have successfully challenged their expulsion from the Umkhonto weSizwe party in the Western Cape High Court. The Triple AM members allege that MK party leader, former President Jacob Zuma, sidelined them. The court, in an order dated 4 December 2024, reviewed and set aside the expulsion and removal of their names on candidate lists. The clergy approached the High Court for it to review and set aside the decision by the National Assembly Speaker to refuse to swear them in as members of Parliament. Kenny Mapanga reports.
The disgruntled members of the clergy argued before the court that the All-African Alliance movement had a working agreement with the MK party. The said agreement was that the movement of the clergy and traditional leaders would suspend their activities and work under the banner of the MK, as well as share the spoils after the elections equally. The movement, however, alleges that this agreement was not realized and they were allegedly sidelined. Kenny Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Director of Public Prosecutions in Gauteng, Advocate Sibongile Mzinyati, says he's pleased with the progress made in the Senzo Meyiwa case. Mzinyati briefed the media on major high-profile cases the division is currently dealing with in various courts across Gauteng. He says while the Meyiwa trial has been dragging, the state will soon close its case.
I get briefed on this case, and I'm assured that it is nearing, at least insofar as the state evidence is concerned. It is nearing. The state case is going to close, going to rest the state case, and then we will hear what the defense and the accused are doing. So, simple answer: I am happy with the pace of that case. It is taking too long, and it is a case that is broadcast live every day on TV. We know what the delays are and how they manifest themselves. We are anxious that this case should finish without any further delays.
Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo are investigating an unknown disease with flu-like symptoms that has killed 79 people in the southwest of the country. A rapid response team, including epidemiologists, has been sent to the region near the Angolan border to collect samples for analysis. The BBC's Richard Gahoe has the details.
More than 300 people in a remote area of Kwango province are suffering from the mysterious illness, experiencing symptoms such as headaches, breathing difficulties and anemia. The Health Ministry has advised the public to avoid mass gatherings, maintain hygiene and refrain from touching dead bodies to reduce the risk of infection. Local health officials warn that the number of cases could rise due to lack of medicines and poor health infrastructure in the region. The DRC has been grappling with a major mpox outbreak this year and bouts of Ebola over the years.
Recapping the top story, pilots affiliated to the South African Airways Pilots Association and the National Transport Movement Pilots Forum have dart tools over a wage dispute. I am Ondalambana for SAFM News headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports, the Sawa SA Rugby refused to give up on equity deal. The Proteas in action against Sri Lanka, and Hamilton bids farewell to Mercedes as Ferrari vie for title. I'll have more on this at 3:30.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course, We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
My name is Bandi Linyawane. I'm 17 and I'm a professional cricket player. While on tour, I was battling to keep up with school. So my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. It's changed the game for me. With the ability to learn from anywhere, I can get ahead and stay ahead. Sign up at uctonlinehighschool.com. It's not too late. Applications close 6 January 2025.
For 30 years, we've stood together, advancing collective action to end violence against women and children. But the fight is far from over. Your voice matters. Every action counts. From educating our communities to supporting survivors, it's time to unite and create a future free from fear. Join SAFM for 16 days of activism. Together we can make a difference. Together we can end the violence. Because 30 years of progress means we cannot stop now. Let's advance the fight. Stand up, speak out, take action. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
And so I wonder, what is it that's going to move the National Pulse today? Yesterday, I think, was pretty easy, clear-cut from the very beginning, and that was the cabinet reshuffle or side shuffle. But as for today, well, I don't know. We'll see how the 3 hours develops. But thank you for joining in. My name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. And whether you are in far-flung Alaska or nearby Canada, relatively speaking, or you're in London or Germany or somewhere in the east, like in Malaysia or further south, welcome to the show. But certainly if you're in South Africa, big cities, Joburg, Durban, Cape Town, other towns or cities like Gqeberha in East London and others, or whether you're one of the towns or dorpies like Beaufort West, welcome to the show indeed. You can engage with me on any of the issues that we raise or that you wish to raise. 086 000 2032. Give yourself a shout out by WhatsApping us with a text message, or you can tweet us as well, 0614 104 107. And you can also send us a voice note on that number, on that WhatsApp number. So welcome indeed. Right. Lots we're going to cover today, but I want to start with something that really doesn't warrant me delaying it, okay? So let's not even tell you what comes up next. Let's get to the issue. There have been reports of massive financial mismanagement within NSFAS, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. As a result of that, Parliament's chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Tebogo Letsi, has now accused the student funding organization of destroying students' lives. And that's a quote, right? Saying the organization's actions are causing students to rely on sugar daddies for financial support. Okay, that should certainly get us thinking, isn't it? Tebogo Letsi with me, Parliament Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. Thank you for joining us and for connecting to the National Pulse, Tebogo.
Good day, Ashraf, to yourself, and good day to your listeners. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Okay, so your point, and I gather I'm quoting you correctly, the Student Funding Organization, you've accused them of destroying students' lives. That's a particularly strong statement. I would think you've got a very good reason for saying that.
No, I do, and thanks for asking. I think you will know that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is created, to fund the poorest of the poor students. So we are accusing them of destroying these kids, these students' lives, because sometimes they send the allowance, or they send the allowances late to the students. And when you grew up like us in poverty, where if you don't get this allowance from NSFAS, you literally have nowhere else where you can get food for that day. I think there was a TV during COVID, a TV documentary in one of the leading stations on TV, where these kids at Tshwane North Tibet College were interviewed, and they were saying, because we do not have money, they've not given us our allowances. We are now left with no choice but to date this older man, even though we don't want to do so. So our code does not come from the pigmentation of our imagination. It's reality. It's something that's there on the ground. We are on institutions of higher learning, and these kids or these students, they do tell us that we are sometimes left with no choice but to do this thing. So they are indeed destroyed. Every day that passes when allowances are not sent to students is a day where, it's a day too long. They push them to do this social.
Okay, let's break it down into two. We'll talk about the impact and therefore the sugar daddy impact in a moment. In terms of NSFAS effectively not paying them and not giving them their monies in time, give me some facts and figures. I mean, how much is available annually? How much is paid out? Where are the delays? Where are the log jams?
Yeah, so currently NSFAS, we must commend them. They've done well. They've distributed funds on time. But when they went to court because they had appointed 4 fintech companies to distribute funds to learners. But these fintech companies, they will not distribute funds to all learners on time, and that is why we then instituted sort of a forensic or a law firm, a Bergsman that was appointed to look into their appointment but their fitness to also do the work, which ultimately came back and said they were not even regularly appointed and they must be terminated. But ever since then, at least things are a bit better as far as that is concerned.
Okay, but I mean, I need a bit more, because I mean, on the one hand, you're saying, we must commend them. They've done well. So, in commending them, they've done well. At the same time, we're actually saying they're destroying students' lives. So, I see a huge contradiction there.
Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from. So I'm saying to them, if they don't pay students allowances on time, then we're going to have serious problems, because we come from a bad period where NSFAS was not paying students on time. So currently you would get isolated cases of 10 students complaining there, 15 students complaining. But earlier this year, you'd have 20,000 students not been given their allowances. So they've improved in terms of distributing these allowances. But like we are saying, even one person, for us, is one person too many. I hope I'm making sense.
No, you certainly have. Okay, so in that light, right now, let's take now at the end of the year, because obviously if those students' funds don't get paid over to them, they could well affect their boarding and lodging or their tuition or their final year results, right? How much is lagging now, like right now? How much is outstanding as a percentage of students?
So we met with NSFAS last week and yesterday. So on the 4th and on the 27th. October, of November. So what they reported to us is that they are left with one tranche to pay to universities and TVET colleges. So one last tranche. So what they do, they pay the universities over 10 months in a year. So they paid 9 different tranches and they're only left with one tranche. And according to their record, that last tranche will then effectively mean that everybody who is funded on their system will not have their results withheld by the institution. But that is what the report says. However, we know for a fact that on their system they do have a number of appeals where throughout the year they would have then said, I'm funded, and then in October and September they then say, the system then says, I was wrongly funded and therefore they are defunding me. And then I would have appealed. So we still have those cases of appeals. Yesterday we asked them about it, and they said by next week Wednesday they'll give us a number. So they did not collate that number, but they will give it to us next week.
So if NSFAS delays the payment and there's no reasonable reason for a delay, let's say if there's a reasonable reason and then you can share it with us. If there's no reasonable reason, then why are they delaying it and who holds them accountable? Meaning, do you, as part of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, are they answerable to you or who?
Yes, they are. NSFAS as an entity under Higher Education and Training, they are accountable to the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nobushen Kavane, the Department of Higher Education and Parliament, which Parliament has given us that responsibility as a portfolio committee in that sector. So we are holding them accountable. That is why we've even said to the department, who are the immediate bosses of NSFAS, that if there's a senior manager who's responsible for disbursement of funds and they've not disbursed, open a criminal case against that particular person. Let's take this accountability issue to the next level. Let's make sure that those who just go to work and gossip instead of doing work, are isolated away from the system, because that thing is damaging. The one day that you go to work, Ashraf, and you don't do your work is really damaging to everybody in the system.
Okay. Let's move on to the other part, which is you're saying then, because some of the students are effectively underfunded and there's a delay in their funding, they are forced to resort to older people's #sugar daddies, I would think, supporting them. How big is that a problem, either in numbers or as a percentage? I mean, what can you tell us?
It's obviously we will need to do a study on it. It's something that I think is underreported in my view, because if you on a weekend, if you go to this restaurant slash nightclubs, that you'll see a lot of serious social ills there, where our young kids who are at our institutions of higher learning are there sitting, being bought alcohol by these older people. You don't know, why they're even there. Some of them are there because, they don't have a choice. Or they now feel indebted to this old man. And many of them, they've got bigger bellies than ours, this older man. So somebody may need to really do a serious in-depth look into the numbers, but I think it's seriously
but have you
underreported.
Have you not done that? What I'm saying, because that's the basis of our conversation today. If it's 1 or 2 or 10 people or 20 people from an entire massive nationwide student population, then how does then one determine that the primary cause would be the NSFAS funding? What I'm saying to you, and I'm trying to be balanced in this, it could be that they're doing so as a dependence on older people because of a lack of funding, or it could actually be that they choose to be with these older men because that's what they choose to be anyway, right? Outside of the NSFAS situation. Never mind, I understand the dependence that may come out of it, right? What I'm trying to get at is how much actual facts and figures have we got versus speculation?
Yeah, no, we don't have the numbers, and I don't want to say it's speculation. We go to all parts of the country, all institutions, more than 200 campuses that we visit, on a daily basis. So it's not a small number of even 1,000 kids. It's a lot. That's why I'm saying we have maybe we must just ask the department to really do an investigation into the actual numbers here, so that maybe that makes sense. But I hear what you are saying. I think it's a fair question, but I don't think it's speculation. It's across the country.
Okay.
Across all the
all right. Well, I suggest do that. Certainly from your position at the portfolio committee, get the department to come back with actual facts and figures, so we know exactly what we're talking about. And then the next question is, how do we provide solutions beyond just NSFAS as well, right? Tebogo, let's see, the Parliament's chairperson of the portfolio committee on higher education. Appreciate your input here on the National Pulse. Let me put this to you, when we talk about what moves the National Pulse. You've heard the conversation that I've had. The claim is that NSFAS has been paying, and they play a huge role in providing funding for the majority of the poorest people who go for higher education. But there are some delays sometimes, in this case, maybe even a month delay. And then young people, particularly females, are forced to, adopt sugar daddies, vice versa, to be able to maintain their lifestyle. That's the claim. How big is it? Do you know much about it? I don't need names, but do you know experiences? It could actually be you. I hope it's not the case, but can you share anything? And don't mention names. Just how widespread is this issue? If you actually have actual stories about this, I think we'd like to know. Let's get to the bottom of this story. Now, to connect with us live on the National Pulse, it's 0614 104 107, text or voice notes, or to call in 086 000 2032. But beyond that, you can talk about anything else you want to touch on. Next up, we have the Global Watch.
For 30 years, we've stood together, advancing collective action to end violence against women and children. But the fight is far from over. Your voice matters. Every action counts. From educating our communities to supporting survivors, it's time to unite and create a future free from fear. Join SAFM for 16 days of activism. Together we can make a difference. Together we can end the violence. Because 30 years of progress means we cannot stop now. Let's advance the fight. Stand up, speak out, take action. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, so don't forget, do you have any thoughts around the NSFAS funding or the lack thereof, and how to some degree it may force people into adopting sugar daddies to be able to fund their lifestyle beyond the universities? Then I think we certainly want to know about it. You don't have to mention names. Let's talk about another issue as part of our Global Watch feature. Now, here's an interesting thought. The Isle of Man, and that's a small island that I think in many ways is linked to the United Kingdom or Great Britain. Well, they continue to attract more foreign professionals through recruitment incentives. I understand that more South African professionals are making their way to this very, very tiny island in the middle of the Irish Sea, right? So between Ireland and Great Britain. The question is, what draws them to the island? What's the appeal? Marnie Delaney James is the founder and MD of Isle of Man Opportunities. Marnie, I appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Okay, you heard my intro. What draws people from South Africa and around the world to this tiny island called the Isle of Man?
It's a fairly perfect lifestyle, especially if you are coming from South Africa. It is the safest place in the British Isles, which obviously is very important for South Africans. And it's quite an easy immigration route. A lot of South Africans want to look at leaving, unfortunately, and they look at Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and those countries prove challenging to try and get into, whereas the Isle of Man, it is actually quite a simple immigration route.
Okay, what's the simple immigration route? Tell me.
They need to get a job or they need to open a business. Once they have been there for a period of time, they will qualify then for a British passport. Like I said, it is the safest place in the British Isles. It's also been voted the best place for expats to live within the British Isles. And it was also voted the 12th place across the globe for expats to live. So it's a very attractive proposition.
How easy is it to get a job? Because I'm just thinking it can't be the most populated place on earth. So how many jobs would be available?
So the unemployment level is very, very low. The Isle of Man government measure it in numbers rather than percentages. I think the last figures we looked at, about 250 people out of a population of 86,000. Very large skill shortage. There are a lot of incentives, fundings and grants potentially available to businesses wanting to move to the island and therefore expand. And obviously with that expansion, they need workforce. Also, the demographics of the island do tend to find that there's a certain demographic will move to the UK and not necessarily stay on the island. So again, that creates a bit of a skill shortage. We see pretty much quite a lot of sectors, but IT, very, very IT heavy island, finance driven as well. So those are probably the two main sectors. Hospitality, it is also a tourism island.
And besides the safety aspect, what then is the overall appeal? I mean, I get the safety part, but beyond that, I mean, are there tax incentives? You mentioned the jobs, but is the lifestyle dramatically different for most people who are used to living in big cities? And it don't just mean South Africa; it could be from anywhere in the world, right? What's the big appeal then?
So I think, obviously with coming from South Africa, it's going to be the safety aspect and it's going to be the future progression and the future opportunities that opens for children, etc. But I think, the Isle of Man does still attract a lot of people from the UK, a lot of people from Europe. It's a very relaxed lifestyle. There's a very good work-life balance. You tend to find that if you're in a much bigger city, if you're in a London or Edinburgh, Manchester, your work-life balance isn't as rich as it is on the island. And it's easy to get on and off, and you can get over to the UK, you can get over to Ireland, so you've still got the option of bright lights, big cities, should you need them.
What's the nearest cities on both sides, to the Irish side as well as to the UK?
So Dublin, Belfast on the Irish side, UK, Liverpool. Liverpool's 20-minute flight, 25 minutes. I mean, it's up and down, literally. Okay, and there's frequent flights and ferries off the island.
All right, so northwest of England and further higher up, right? How many, you say there's an appeal to South Africans, how many South Africans are currently living on the Isle of Man?
Difficult to say because they come in not necessarily on a South African passport. So we move South Africans, but they may have a British passport, but their family may have South African passport. Or we move South Africans on an alternative European passport. There's a lot of South Africans with alternative nationalities. So it's difficult to basically put a figure on it, but there's a very, very strong South African influence on the island. There's lots of South African companies, Derivco, Nedbank, Standard Bank, big South African community. And they will mix, but they do tend to also, there's festivals, South African festivals, so they do tend to get together at that point.
Okay, maybe lastly, from where you're sitting as the MD of the Isle of Man Opportunities, I gather you facilitate all this for those that are interested, right?
Yes, correct. So we will help people move over if they want to find employment, or alternatively if they want to relocate their business or start a new business on the island. The island also has very attractive tax benefits. So personal income tax is capped at 22%. And for businesses, it's 0% corporation tax. And there's lots of other tax benefits that come into play the longer you live there.
Okay.
So it is a very, very attractive place to go.
All right. Lastly, give me a contact number, website maybe, and feel free to tweet it out as well. Just tag SAFM Radio and myself if people are interested.
Thank you. Hashtag SAFM. Isle of Man Opportunities, IOMopportunities.com or 082 237 8279.
Okay, we'll get Keys to make a note on that, but Isle of Man Opportunities.com is the one that's easiest to remember. Well, appreciate your time, Marnie Delaney James. Much appreciate that. Fascinating conversation, in fact. Founder, MD of Isle of Man Opportunities. Would you be up to that to take up the Isle of Man challenge, or would you rather stay put? Think about that. 3:30. Here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, 4 men aged between 34 and 59 have been shot dead at a Mende location in Willowvale in the Eastern Cape. It is alleged that a headman and his siblings were travelling in a car towards the Willowvale CBD when they were shot by occupants of another vehicle who had stopped them. There are concerns about the impact on holiday travel in South Africa after pilots affiliated to the South African Airways Pilots Association and the National Transport Movement Pilots Forum downed tools over a wage dispute. And National Police Commissioner Fanny Masemula has visited the abandoned mine shaft in Sabi, Mpumalanga, to check on the progress of an operation to retrieve over 100 illegal miners underground. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound and four ways is slow moving approaching Winnie Mandela Drive off-ramp. The N1 southbound in Grasmere has delays approaching Grasmere services. Heavy traffic in the CBD, especially around Noord Street taxi rank, and slow-moving traffic reported in the Crown City West area. In KZN, the N2 northbound in Amanzimtoti queuing towards Turnside exit. The N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before Hammersdale exit. The N2 northbound is queuing towards Westwood Mall and Umgeni Road westbound slow-moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 inbound has a crash reported between Brighton Road and Okobongo Road. All lanes are open. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a crash reported at Hospital Bend. The M5 northbound is slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange, and the R300 northbound, a stationary truck on the link to the N1 outbound. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, Tumi, let's talk sport, and you as the Minister of Sport, let's talk about the business of sport, the business of the Springboks and SA Rugby, right?
Yeah, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, SA Rugby have defended their proposed equity deal with the Akali Sports Group, describing the 1.4 billion investment as vital for the sports sustainability in South Africa. Now, the deal would grant ASG a 20% stake in SA Rugby's commercial arm, but it requires 75% majority vote from South Africa's 13 rugby unions to pass. Speaking to Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Sports, Arts and Culture yesterday, SARU President Mark Alexandra emphasized the deal was not for personal gain, but to secure rugby's future amid economic challenges. Now, the union will vote tomorrow with just 4 opposing votes sufficient to block the deal. Then moving on to cricket, the Proteas are in action against Sri Lanka. It is day 1 of the second test at St. George's Park. It's a massive game for both sides as they look to keep their World Test Championship hopes alive. Now, South Africa won the toss, electing to bat first. They're currently sitting on 187 for 5. Ryan Rickleton and Kyle Verreynne at the crease. Aiden Markram only managed 20 runs. Tony Dezorzi out for a duck. Tristan Stubbs only managing 4. And Themba Bavuma hitting 78 of 109 deliveries, with Bellingham, who just actually went out with just 6 runs. Meanwhile, incoming Cricket Australia boss Todd Todd Greenberg says that Australia would need tough conversations about regenerating an aging team amid concerns of coming exodus of senior players. Australia fielded only one player under 30 in debutant opener Nathan McSweeney in the first test against India, where Pat Cummins' side were thrashed 295 runs. Now, Greenberg acknowledged the challenges that Australia are facing, while noting that players are enjoying long careers, and this is due to better management. In football, SAFA President Danny Jordan and his co-accused Ronnie Hluyo and Trevor Neethling made a brief appearance at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court today. They are facing charges related to corrupt activities that allegedly occurred between 2014 and 2019, during which time Jordan is accused of using SAFA resources for personal gain. That case has been postponed to next Tuesday. Meanwhile, South African under-17 girls coach Ntombifuthi Khumalo says that the COSAFA under-17 Women's Championship is crucial as it forms part of preparations for the FIFA under-17 Women World Cup qualifiers that are starting in January next year. Khumalo says that the regional tournament will help countries fine-tune their strategies ahead of getting on the world stage.
It's very important because the challenge is not the same. I mentioned some of them, they have experience for under 15 competition. This is under 17, where every country is preparing for World Cup qualifiers. They bring their best, they understand the stake, and it's not an easy one, I don't want to lie, because when you want to qualify for World Cup, such competition help to find yourself good. Are you ready, or you need to change, or you need to, whatever you have, you must make sure you do the right thing, whatever decision in terms of helping these youngsters to be the best in the world.
Well, from next year, the FIFA Under-17 World Cup will be held annually, and Morocco will welcome participants between August and September, with 16 teams taking part. In terms of Africa, they only have 5 slots, including the hosts. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich striker Harry Kane has made a return to individual fitness training as he continues his recovery from a hamstring tear. Kane missed the midweek German Cup after picking up an injury on Saturday, and Bayern Munich Vincent Kompany says that he hopes the star striker will return before the end of the year. In motorsport, Lewis Hamilton bids farewell to Mercedes this weekend as his future outfit Ferrari looked to snatch a first constructor's crown in 16 years from McLaren. Sunday's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will mark an end of an era as the 7-time champion ends a remarkable 12-year spell with the Silver Arrows and a 26-year association with the Mercedes brand. Now, then he will move on to Ferrari, where Italy hopes he can rediscover the mojo that made him the sport's most successful driver with 7 titles and 105 wins. And funny enough, I actually never thought that Hamilton would ever leave Mercedes, but here we are, and it'll be interesting to see how he's going to perform at Ferrari. But ending things off with golf, the Nedbank Golf Challenge got underway today. This year's field includes half of the top 20 players on last season's DP World Tour race to Dubai rankings, and currently leading the pack, the last time I checked, tied at the top is South African Oki Stradum and American Max Homa on 5 under par. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Just when you said you never thought that Hamilton would leave Mercedes. Why? What did he say ultimately? What was the appeal for him?
In terms of moving
of
on,
moving,
the
yeah.
car. Definitely the car. Definitely the car.
So car before, which means team, right? Team, better car, better success. What more success could he want?
I think he just wants to win and win and win. He's tired of not winning.
So he thinks he can't win if he stays put?
Perhaps.
Okay. Let's talk about rugby just now. I want to know about the business of it and your thoughts on that. We'll do that in the next hour.
Righty.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? With Specsavers buy one get one offer, you get great value for money. You know you can trust us with over 350 stores nationwide. Get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye test and spectacle frame with lenses on your first pair. Choose from top brands like Police, Hugo, Tommy Hilfiger, Carolina Herrera and more. There really is no reason to go anywhere else. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Get ready to honor Madiba's legacy together. Join us on 8 December at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Gauteng, as we pay tribute to Nelson Mandela with the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run. There's a distance for everyone: 21 kilometers, 10-kilometer run, and a 5-kilometer scenic walk. Enjoy loads of entertainment and plenty of fun for the kids. If you can't be there in person, you can participate from wherever you are, uniting with thousands around the country to honor Nelson Mandela's vision of unity, equality, and a just society. All proceeds will support the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Register now at mandelawalkandrun.com. Let's come together to remember Madiba. In proud partnership with Gauteng Province, the City of Tshwane, and SABC Sport. See you there. Let's make it a day to remember.
Okay, so, we talk about December. Well, it really is December now. So this December, OUTsurance Essential. Well, that's a separate product, okay? OUTsurance Essential gives you the gift of low-cost insurance for your older car. Get up to 1 million rands personal liability cover, which means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to, 1 million rands. Now, add motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get savings with OUTsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years old and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43187. CAR 43187. You got that? License insurer and FSP T's and C's and information available online.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, if you have any thoughts on some of the issues we've raised already, feel free to just connect and really love to know wherever you may be listening in from the country. If you're a first-time listener, tell me that's true. Okay, I want to just check out if there's any voice notes to play here. But what I'll do, let's get to some of the calls in the meantime. So we've got Padiachi in KZN. Good chatting to you. Hi.
Hi, good day to you, Ashraf.
Good day. Go ahead, yeah?
Yes, thank you very much for taking my call, and I really appreciate it, and I enjoy your show, The Pulse.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you.
And I think my pulse is being raised because of the way the municipality has actually been treating us here in KZN. I live in Chatsworth, and in Chatsworth we have 4 swimming pools, and the recreation facility since COVID has been affected. We haven't had service delivery with regards to the recreation facility from that period in time. Right now we're in dire strait because we're into summer season. And the area where I live, which is Arena Park, is very close to an informal settlement. The swimming pools only open at 9:30 and close at 5 o'clock, which is absolutely ridiculous in summer season. They used to open years back. I've been swimming in this pool for the last 15 years. We used to open at 6 and close at 8, Sunday to Sunday. Now the pools only open from Monday to Saturday. Sunday they open at 9:30. Now it's gone the whole week. We're only opening at 9:30. The excuse is that they don't have sufficient swimmers or supervisors. Now, we are told to go to a swimming pool which is 3-4 kilometers away. I have a vehicle. I'm able to go. But what about those underprivileged children that cannot go to that pool? That's not fair. We all pay our taxes, and because you don't have service delivery in a certain area, we are not reduced with our rates and taxes. I mean, it should be equal.
Well, I mean, I hear you. I hear you, by the way, Padiachi. Thanks for the compliment about the show, and keep on listening. Interesting. I mean, yesterday we had a caller from Lenasia and the area around it, Annandale and Orange Farm, almost saying similar things to you about maintenance being shut, continuing during the holiday season for pools, which means they can't use the pools, right? But to go back to your point, I mean, your pools are open. I mean, I hear you. Isn't this the bigger problem, that when a city is unable to maintain itself? You know, for example, if you've got 10 children, they can only afford to look after 6 at any one time. So always there's somebody being neglected, and that's the reality. Yeah?
It's a facility that's being provided. So I'm saying, what do we do? Do we just keep quiet and fall down and accept what is being dished out to us? It's unfair. I mean, we're paying taxes. People are being paid to provide the service delivery. I mean,
well, I don't think you should keep quiet. I don't think you should.
Being squandered.
Yeah.
Money is being squandered, and I mean, surely you have a budget. You can't say that some facilities are being provided that's adequate. That's absolutely nonsense.
All right. Well, I don't think you should be quiet about it. But just the last thing to you, besides you raising it on air, and maybe I'll get Temba or Keys to just make a note of this and see if we can follow up with your local authority in that region. But have you done that? That means, are you able to speak to your local councillor or local area representative about just this? Have you done that?
Yes, we've tried all those avenues. We've tried the media. And that's why I'm trying a wider range of the media. I'm trying the Pulse. So far as this particular area that I'm talking about has had 5 different acting superintendents. They haven't as yet appointed an attendant. They keep every 6 months rotating these people.
Okay.
Why? The post is available. Appoint somebody who can handle the matter.
All right.
The head of recreation doesn't want to take our calls, doesn't want to meet with us.
Okay, I need to move on, Padyachi, only because of time. Maybe just leave your number with Keys. Let's see if we can follow up on this issue. Thank you for that. But also let me put this to you. Is this issue, the conversation I've just had with Padyachi, does that apply to many others? We had Orange Farm, Lenasia, Annandale, some talking about Kings Park. Are there others across the board that you can talk about where these pools exist, but there's been neglect to a degree to the point that the pools are not used anywhere near its maximum efficiency? And if that's the case, why not? I want to get your calls because, effectively, my point of view is like, how can we help you? We need to be able to do that. Let's talk about an issue on the High Court and electricity after this.
SAFM leading the conversation.
Okay, while we talk about the issue of what's in the pools and what's not happening, here's another issue that is quite significant. The High Court of South Africa has overturned the government's plans to add 1.5 megawatts of new coal-fired power to the national grid. So that's the plan, to add it to the grid, make it more effective, more people less chances of load shedding. Isn't it all great, right? But the High Court has now overturned that. Why had they done that? Significantly, the High Court found that the government failed to adequately consider the impact of coal on children's rights, particularly their right to a healthy environment. Wow, that's significant. Brandon Abednoy is with me. He's the head of the Pollution and Climate Change Program at the Centre for Environmental Rights in Cape Town. Brandon, good to connect with you here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you and the listeners. Good to be here. Thanks.
How significant is this finding? Because as I talk to you, I'm thinking it's not just about a new coal-fired power plant. If we apply the same principle, then what stops the same principle being applied to existing power plants?
Exactly. Well, it's incredibly significant because I think it really does mark the end of the procurement of coal-fired electricity generation in the country. The court order didn't ban it, but it said that if we are going to be considering technologies with the range of harms that arise from coal, which is climate, health, and cost, which will ultimately impact the cost of electricity as well, then there must be adequate consideration given to those potential harms. And that was something that didn't happen in this case. Additionally, there wasn't adequate consultation. If you think of the climate crisis and the nature of its intensifying impacts, it's children who are alive now and future generations that are going to bear the brunt of those. And we do have a right in our constitution that says that the interests of children must be taken adequately into account. So that is very significant. This principle of duly considering can also then be applied to things like decommissioning existing coal. Look, the facts are quite different, but really it's saying to the state decision makers, do these things properly and don't just sort of wipe the threats and the potential harms off the table.
Well, historically, we've come from a situation where you have coal-fired plants. South Africa is still very dependent on that. There is a big move towards cleaner energy, as we know, not just in this country, but worldwide. But there's also the counter-argument at this point in time where countries have an abundance of fossil fuels available, that the move towards alternate energies actually may well cripple the country's finances, and it's not very wise in the short term. So how do you balance out that urgency and that need against this effectively a human rights or a children's right need?
Well, look, we've got an existing coal fleet, and no one's saying that those need to be shut down overnight, but they do need to be shut down as quickly as possible, again, for the reasons of the harms that I mentioned and the costs. And I think a good job has been done to get the load shedding crisis under control. But ultimately, we're sitting with large, complex, and old plants. So it's just a question of time before that unreliability starts creeping in again. It doesn't make sense anymore from a cost point of view to build coal. It's now an expensive technology. The financing for that kind of thing is not readily available anymore, nor is the insurance. Whereas the renewable route is a lot cheaper. But if we look at what we're mitigating against, if we look at what the potential costs are of climate impacts, which are really starting to bite only now, even from a pure financial point of view, it makes no sense.
Okay, now, in terms of the High Court ruling, what's significant, it specifically talks about the impact of coal on children's rights, particularly their rights to a healthy environment. Why would that not apply to adults as well, just everybody?
Oh, it does. It definitely does. And if you look carefully at the judgment, it's about adequately considering the threats and the harms and the limitations of those rights in respect of everybody. But Section 28 in our Bill of Rights has this additional duty that says where decisions are made that have an impact on children, their interests should be made paramount. So effectively, the court in the law here is, in a sense, a guardian for children and for future generations. I mean, that even includes unborn people at this point in time. So that's why this is the specific kind of focus on the youth, but it does cover everybody.
Okay, but you do think, in conclusion, that this court ruling would be a game changer then?
It is a game changer. I think certainly in terms of the way that the risks need to be considered, and also, you know, as I say, the economics of coal make less and less sense every day. So technically, the government could go back and restart this process, but I think the chances of that are close to zero. If we look at the new integrated resource plan draft that's been hinted at more than released very recently, it doesn't have new coal in it. So I think that's the end of new coal. And now it's a question of decommissioning the existing coal as quickly as possible, while obviously being sensible.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Brandon Abedno, food for thought or coal for thought? I'll be pouring cold water on the issues of coal, head of the Pollution and Climate Change Program at the Centre for Environmental Rights in Cape Town, reflecting on the High Court ruling, overturning where the High Court has overturned the government's plans, your government's plans, to add 1.5 megawatts of new coal-fired power to the national grid because of its impact on coal, on children's rights, particularly their rights to a healthy environment. Now, what do you make of that? While you think about that, let's talk about another aspect of young people, the Youth Behavior Report, right after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, let's talk about this then. And by the way, before I get to this, again, you know, we've had 2-3 people about their swimming pool problems, right? If you have any problem that affects not just your home, but your local community, then my question to you, and I don't have the answers, like, how can we help? Is there a way we can connect you to someone to provide a solution in a way that you can't do it yourself? I don't promise you we can do that all the time, but honestly, let's try, because what it means is we move away from just talking about issues to actually providing solutions. Now, I mean, that would certainly be a reflection of the national pulse, right? You can't get your pulses racing all the time, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the Youth Behavior Report, right? The latest Gen Next report is fascinating. It talks about younger generations becoming more critical of the powers that be, and a whole lot more around their relationship to governments and companies and who owns what. So let's unpack these outcomes. And it's put together, well, the spokesperson here is the MD for Yellowwood and the Chief Strategy Officer for the TBWA South Africa, Lesego Kotane. Lesego, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so this is interesting. I mean, tell us more about this youth behavior report in terms of some of the key takeouts here.
Yeah, sure. So I think just a little bit of context before maybe getting into some of the specifics. So we've been, the youth behavior report and survey has been in the market for about, this is actually the 20th year, where we've been tracking kind of youth sentiment, youth attitudes to brands, outlooks, and just some of their perspectives. So it is an annual report covered across around 7,000, just over 7,000 participants aged between the ages of 8 to 30. across the country. So, yeah, really, really fascinating, and I think it's important, because the youth do make up over 60% of the country's population. I mean, we are a young nation, and it's important for us to try and understand what young people think, and kind of what their outlooks are.
Absolutely. So what do they think?
A bunch of things. I mean, I think if I to touch on, we cover a bunch of themes on an annual basis, from outlook to behavior to relationship with technology, to relationship with government and institutions. So if I to just, I think, pick out on a couple of things that we found interesting in this year's study, I think what really surprised and encouraged us was that there was a really high sense of positive outlook and positive sentiment from the youth, around a kind of an 82% positive sentiment from the respondents, which was an encouraging thing for us, I think, in the context of the headwinds that are against young people, some of the challenges that they're dealing with from employment, just the cost of living crisis. But I think it shows that there's a real sense of resilience that young people have in the face of adversity, and I think that we saw a real strong sense of kind of self-belief and sort of a kind of a positive outlook towards the future. So that was kind of one really positive dimension for us that we found when we looked into it. I think another thing, just that is quite was we found sort of from a surprising perspective was I know we often talking about the youth in terms of the relationship with technology and sort of being glued to their screens and being kind of the digital first cohort, which is high, but it was quite encouraging to see that there's still a real strong sense of community and belonging and the desire to kind of be connected to community as I guess evidenced through relationships and family. So and that really had a positive high scoring as well. So that was it's a nice counterbalance, I guess, despite being a kind of a tech-driven and a digitally orientated collective.
And is there anything in terms of these the research done that has jumped off the page that has completely surprised you guys and suddenly blown it apart? It's like, my goodness, I didn't think so.
Look, I mean, I think the year on year, I think we would have seen that there would be a sense of kind of ambivalence or a lack of trust when it comes to public institutions, when it comes to sort of government and corporates. But I think something new for us, which we saw this year, was that there was a lot of positivity towards, I think, the political situation, where we saw kind of positive sentiment increase from the low 30s to sort of the 40 over 40%. And I think for me, it's probably testament to even what we saw happening this year within an election year. Kind of younger people getting a lot more involved. I think a bunch of people, it being the first time opportunity to participate in the elections, and an attitude of kind of wanting to take a bit more of agency, and wanting a kind of a different, better outlook for their future. So, where you would have historically expected there to just be genuine ambivalence and disinterest, there was a lot more active participation and kind of engagement with I guess with the political situation.
Okay, why does all this information matter, and who does it matter to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, as I said, my first my kind of earlier comment that I made around South Africa's youth being the kind of dominant segment, and South Africa being a relatively young nation inside a young continent, Africa being the youngest. For us, it's important that we keep track of what are the leading indicators, what are the leading points of view amongst young people, for brands and businesses, which is, I guess, who we try and do it in service of as a kind of a brand strategy consulting company. We want to help put brands that are interested in the youth, that want to engage with the youth, that want to drive relevance with the youth. We want to help those organizations and companies sort of get to know what young people are thinking, what they're thinking about, how they're thinking, how they're feeling. And then I guess from a future perspective, in terms of driving future demand, these are the customers of the future, and sort of members of society of the future. So whose voices and opinions and and rands and wallets are going to be sort of more and more important. So I think it's just a critical opportunity for us and a big opportunity for us to kind of keep in lockstep with just knowing how and where they're at and how they're feeling.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Can you share a website maybe, or maybe you can even tag us by posting it on social media as to where we can get people to read more about your report? But give us the website.
Yes,
please, yeah?
Yes, sure. So we do have a published report that if people are interested in, they can reach out to us. It's info@ywood.co.za. Alternatively, they can visit our website at www.ywood.co.za.
Okay, info@ywood.co.za, right? That's the email address, but you can certainly tweet it as well. Just tag us and post on Facebook. We will certainly share it. Thank you for that, Lesego Kotane, the MD for Yellowwood, and the Chief Strategy Officer as well for TBWA, South African Ad Agency. By the way, lots of people asking about the Isle of Men. So yeah, it is the Isle of Men opportunities. What you need to be doing is go to the website. It's IOM and then opportunities, IOMopportunities.com. You got that? IOMopportunities.com. I'll give out a number as well just after the news. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4 men shot dead in the Eastern Cape and SAA pilots down tools for SAFM News. I am Ondela Mbana and a very good afternoon. A local headman and 3 of his brothers have been shot dead at Mende location in Willowvale in the Eastern Cape. They were travelling in a car towards the Willowvale CBD when they were shot by occupants of another vehicle who had stopped them. Police say the motive for the shooting is not known at this stage. Police spokesperson Sipokazi Mawisa says they are investigating 4 counts of murder.
The motive for the shooting is unclear at the moment and will form part of the continuing investigation by the Provincial Serious and Violent Crimes Investigation Unit. Anyone with information that could lead to the arrest of the suspects is requested to contact SAPS Crime Stop number 08600 10111 or alternatively report to the nearby police station.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile, in his role as leader of government business, has written to National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza to inform her that the SABC bill has in fact not been withdrawn. Early in November, Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Solly Malatsi withdrew the bill, citing the need for a credible funding model for the public broadcaster, which he said the bill does not adequately address. During the post-cabinet briefing in Parliament to the media today, the status of this bill was questioned.
The bill is an executive bill, and the leader of government business has written to the Speaker to indicate that the bill has not been withdrawn. And Minister Malachi has been advised that if he wants to withdraw a bill, he must make a submission. And Cabinet has accepted that there was no malice intended by Minister Malachi. It's part of the standard protocols that new ministers will get used to how Cabinet operates. The appointment...
Pilots affiliated to the South African Airways Pilots Association and the National Transport Movement Pilots Forum have downed tools over wage dispute. Workers are demanding a 15% wage increase as well as benefits, while the employer, SAA, is offering 8%. The strike action is likely to affect flight operations ahead of the festive season. The SAPA's captain, Sibusiso Nxumalo, says they're struggling as most workers got up to 50% salary cuts during the business rescue process.
Actually deeply regret having to undergo this position, but this is the last resort that we had to push in order for us to have a meaningful discussion with the company. So at this stage, we're hoping that the company tries and gets us back into the table so we can engage on this further, cease the strike or potentially suspend it until a later date, or even getting an agreement with the company that will put us back into those aircraft. We want to fly. We do not want to be out here. We are aware that all the international flights will not be able to get off the ground. We are aware that most regional flights will not be able to get the ground. And we've just got word that the company is actually seeking to charter other airlines to assist in their operations.
National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula has visited the abandoned mine shaft in Sabi, Mpumalanga, to check on the progress of an operation to retrieve over 100 illegal miners underground. During yesterday's operations, 8 illegal miners were brought to the surface and the bodies of 3 deceased illegal miners were retrieved. Masamula elaborates.
At present moment, we are looking at various resources that can be of assistance, be it from government or private sector. We must say the situation here is different, unlike in Stelfontein, which is several kilometers going deep down. Here, we are told is about 150 meters going down. This operation is conducted with the utmost care and precision which it deserved, and we will also make a stopover at Stelfontein when we leave here.
The Syrian army says it's withdrawn its forces from the key central city of Hama, effectively ceding control there to rebel fighters. The rebel campaign to seize the city began just 2 days ago, following the reignition of the war in Syria last week. The BBC's Sebastian Asher has the details.
In a communique, the Syrian army has said that it's redeployed its troops outside Hama in order, it says, to preserve civilian lives and prevent urban combat. A short time earlier, the rebels said they'd taken control of the prison in Hama, releasing hundreds of prisoners there. This is another major setback for the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his Russian and Iranian backers. It was just a week ago that the main rebel group HTS led the sudden attack on Aleppo, which fell within days.
Recapping the top story, a local headman and 3 of his brothers have been shot dead at Menta location in Willowvale in the Eastern Cape. They were travelling in a car towards the Willowvale CBD when they were shot by occupants of another vehicle who had stopped them. I am Mondela for SAFM News Headlines at 4:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, we hear from Sundowns coach Manqoba Mngxi regarding ASFAR and their plans, and the Sevens Challenger Series return to Cape Town 2025. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg has a crash at Crown Interchange. The N3 northbound in Alexandra's protest action with burning tyres at London Road that's causing delays in both ways. And the N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash at Buccleuch Interchange. In KZN, the N2 northbound queuing towards Westwood Mall. The N2 northbound in Amanzimtoti is queuing towards Doonside exit. The N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before Hammersdale exit. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place, and the M1 southbound has a crash reported before London Road off-ramp. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a crash at Hospital Bend. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 northbound slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange, and the R300 northbound a stationary truck reported on that link to the N1 outbound. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Your ultimate football show is on your screen on Sundays. This is Safa TV, where every episode is packed with non-stop local football fire. We're bringing you all the latest from our junior and senior national teams. From fresh updates to the inside scoop on Safa and the stars of SA football. Catch Safa TV on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. on SABC1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. The SAFM playwriting competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind. and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, earlier on we spoke about what I called how can we help, right? And it comes from a position that increasingly so in the last few days we're getting people calling in about issues in their communities. Now, whereas we can't solve it directly, please, we just can't. What we can do is if we can try and get the decision maker in that relevant community on air and actually explain themselves. So I'm putting it out to you as well, okay? If there's something that you think where you need help as a community, not personal, but as a community, then my question is, how can you help, right? Or how can we help? So let us know. You can call in 086 000 2032 or WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107. Let's see how it goes. I don't promise you the world, but I think let's try as a team collectively that it can't just be about the philosophical issues in the country, but practically how can we help, isn't it? By the way, just talking about that, so I picked up, in fact, and here's a thought to you. I picked up a shopping bag that, in fact, my wife picked it up yesterday, but it's an old one, and it's from England, from London, and it's got the W.H. Smith. So those who've traveled to London would understand that. W.H. Smith, right? And then it says established 1792. So that's like 300 years old story, well, 250 or so, thereabouts. W.H. Smith established EST 1792. Now, I'm not going to talk about them. What I am going to ask you is this one. Do you pay attention to when an organization was established? Because you often get that, not just a store, but it could also be another type of business, even a service industry business, where they will tell you when they established. Do you pay attention to that, or does it just fly over the window because it makes no difference to you whatsoever? It's only about service delivery. Or you can say, hold it, if they're around for 50 years or 60 years or 300 years, goodness, man, they must be doing something really well and sustaining that. Just think about that. And if you have your own personal anecdotes, then do share that with me. Now, yesterday we spoke about the grade 5 pupils who've been ranked last, stone bottom out of 59 countries in these all-important subjects of maths and science. And as part of an international standardized test conducted about a year ago, right? So there's a difference, better news for grade 9s. But let's start with the grade 5 story. Dr. Mark Chetty is with me. He's the Director for Assessments at the Department of Basic Education. Dr. Chetty, thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Okay, so 59 out of, 59 out of 59. That's bottom of the log. I mean, that should get my pulses racing. Yours too?
Well, Ashraf, if this was an Olympic medals competition, we could argue about 59 out of 59. But this is not a competition. This is about South Africa participating in global assessments and trying to establish, where are we as a system and how are we doing across different time points. So, I mean, the positioning is you can't really compare different country contexts. Each one is unique. So, we're focusing more on the substance of what these studies mean, where our learners are in terms of the benchmarks, because that gives us a more, a more definitive stance about how to intervene and support.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you, but alternatively, if, for example, in this global survey that South Africa finished number 1 out of 59, I promise you we'd be having you on air and you would be celebrating as well. I'm sure of it.
Well, Ashraf, a similar stance would be, but what we can say is that out of the African participants, and Ashraf, we got to put this in context, most of the countries that participate are from the developed world, the global north, the East. So you're looking at countries that have much more developed system. But out of the African countries, clearly we're outperforming them at the grade 9 level. And at the grade 5 level, yes, Morocco is slightly ahead of us. But overall, if you take the two grades and the levels of performance, we are the best performer in Africa. So, you can take that into context.
Okay, well, I'll talk about the grade 9s in just a second. So just to get clear about it, because it's an important point, you're saying only 59 countries participated. I mean, there's over 100 and X amount of countries in the world. And if we factor all of them in, then we would be mid-table and not bottom of the log, right?
Correct.
Okay. However, right, what came through? I mean, besides the ranking, what did they say about South Africa regarding grade 5s? We'll talk about grade 9s in a moment.
Right, and that's the critical point. And I think what this study does is that it gives benchmarks. So benchmarks, there are 4 benchmarks with the TIM study. There's a low benchmark, there's an intermediate, there's a high, and advanced. So it tells you how the learners are doing in mathematics and science according to these benchmarks. Now what we see is that at the grade 5 level, you got about 53% of our learners who participated achieving the low benchmark and above. So, so that's a positive. It does mean, though, by implication, that 47% of them are not reaching the benchmark. At grade 9, it's even better. So that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on, what is the percentage of learners that are not meeting the benchmark, and then we have to look at what are the underlying reasons behind that in terms of provincial, in terms of our different quintile and categories of school, in terms of important subgroups that we track, so that then we can offer targeted support to close some of those gaps.
I suppose the important part for all of us, right, is linked to what we call South Africa's global competitiveness and that global competitiveness index. Now, I often talk about, wanting to build South Africa into a champion nation, top of the list in just about everything we do, right? Now, if we sit around 70, 80 odd in the global competitiveness index, the bigger issue for me when I talk to you is that in terms of maths and science as an important feeder into ensuring that we are globally competitive, are we competitive in maths and science against our own benchmarks and against the benchmarks of the rest of the world? If we're not, then the gap between us and the countries that are outperforming us now may well become even larger, and that alone is problematic.
No, agreed. But we have to concern what was useful, Ashraf, yesterday. South Africa was the only country. Yesterday was the international release date of TIMSS, but we were the only country that released 2 other data sets as well from 2 other studies, because you want a more complete picture other than just 59 countries participating and so forth. So we also participated in the SACMEG, which is the Southern and East African region, giving more context, to our closeness in terms of curriculum match, teaching and learning pedagogies, and so we're much more closer to our Southern and East African counterparts than we are to how teaching and learning takes place, in Finland or in Sweden or in Singapore.
I understand that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of competitiveness, in terms of the benchmarks there, we are over the 500-point threshold at the grade 6 level. And then we also released our own national study because we have benchmarks for that. And we also match our curriculum according to global benchmarks and so forth. And there our children at grade 6 and at grade 9 have achieved significantly higher than 500 points, which means they are meeting the basic requirements from the curriculum they are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. We must acknowledge, though, that in all 3 studies, what a common trend comes out, that in the foundational years, and especially like we're seeing the observations at grade 5, so the foundational years leading into grade 4 and 5, there is constrained performance. So whilst it's slightly more stable at your intermediate and senior phases, especially at grade 9, in the earlier years of schooling, there is a challenge. We need to have much more targeted support on the foundational concepts of both, mathematics, science, and reading literacy.
Okay. So when you talk about what constrained performance and use the word challenge, now, I always think about this personally. Whenever government departments talk about we have a challenge, it really is a euphemism for saying we have a problem. So do we have a problem?
We have a problem. we do have a problem, and we have to acknowledge, and it's more than the education department that needs to sort of work with this problem, because it's going to take a societal response. There's issues relating to resources, between rich and poor schools. There's differences relating to provinces. Our urban provinces like Gauteng and Western Cape are significantly outperforming provinces like Limpopo and Northwest. But probably the biggest bugbear, Ashraf, is a language issue. I know the studies and there's a lot of attention on mathematics, but before you get to the mathematical understanding, you need the language, and especially in these international tests, where the language demand is quite high, you need to be able to understand the instructions. What is it that I need to do in this mathematics problem? I need to be able to access that question in order to know what mathematical steps. So what we're finding with the South African learners, and we also revealed this a lot last year with our other international data on PEARLS, that there is a reading literacy problem in the foundational years. And this is very much due to the vast majority of our learners speaking a different language at home to the language that they are receiving in the school.
But
so
here's the last thing, and I hear that.
Well.
I mean, that's got changed of 1976, right? We know that. But in terms of this global survey, then, are the learners then judged? I mean, I know it's mathematics, but are they judged in terms of how they express their mathematics in a language like English, or how they express that language of mathematics in a language of the language they're most comfortable with?
Well, in the South African context, at the grade 5, the two languages that are dominant is English and Afrikaans. So whilst the policy would allow for a language of instruction to be any of the official languages, the default practice is you are attending a school in English or Afrikaans. So, and what we can see from the studies, which strengthens the language argument, the Afrikaans learners, and presumably there's a very close match between what they're speaking at home and what they are receiving instruction in school. They are outperforming the English learners. And the English learners who are coming to school are largely from backgrounds where they are not speaking English at home. And that's the context, that's inhibiting performance.
Thank you for sharing that, Russ. I think so much has come out of this conversation. We could probably have, a thought leader conversation on 10 different aspects of this and where to go next. At the heart of all this is not just mathematics transformation, but just national transformation as well. Dr. Mark Chatty, thank you for your time. Dr. Chatty is the Director for Assessments at the Department of Basic Education.
Get ready to win big this holiday season with SAFM. Text Christmas to 41391 to stand a chance to win one of 12 amazing mystery prizes. SMS lines open on the 29th of November and close on the 24th of December 2024. Winners will be announced between the 26th and the 31st of December. Each SMS costs R1.50, so hurry up and send your entries now. Terms and conditions apply. Get into the festive spirit and win big with SAFM this Christmas. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Interesting. I bumped into someone today from the Region Business School, and they were talking about languages where they've developed now, I think 3, let's call them vernacular African languages outside of English and Afrikaans as their medium of instruction, their medium of instruction in business, which outside, and that's never happened before. I think we must find out more about it because it is really important if students at default level are already at a disadvantage. Right, some of the issues we raised, or you raised, or you may want to raise, one of them, sugar daddies.
Hi, Ashraf. So I don't know any university students that have sugar daddies, but I know about high school students who have sugar daddies, high school students. That is what is our dilemma today. I've spoken to a student in our area, and she said you either mix with those who mix with the sugar daddies who wait a kilometer away from school in their vehicles, married men waiting for these children to meet them up daily. Or you mix with those who are drug addicts or those who are alcoholics.
Sure. Well, I wish you could tell us which area if you're up for that, but what it tells you is like, look at the three choices you've given, like Hobson's choice, isn't it? It does speak about a complete social breakdown in society if young girls in schools have those choices of survival. That means they don't have any other choice of survival. Sure, thanks for sharing that, but it is so scary.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and its FM listeners. Your guest there who's talking about sugar daddies, I think he just come on radio with exaggerations. Going partying in nightclubs is a choice, and the worst part of it, he is not talking about this kid, this school university student. They are using these grants to buy alcohol and do illicit things. They are even selling the laptops, even the data they are given, they are selling so that they can raise money for alcohol. So I don't understand what he is talking about. Thanks, James Johannesburg.
Okay, thank you for that. Again, very, very disturbing. If you have any thoughts, I'm really talking about anecdotal conversations you can share with us around the concept of sugar daddies and NSFAS, or even high schools where these young girls, learners, are completely dependent on those options. Otherwise, they fall by the wayside. And their parents, I would think, as well, right? It's a frightening social construct. Now, by the way, talking about NSFAS, the administrator at NSFAS, Sitembiso Freeman Nomvalo, will be chatting to Sitembiso later on, and he'll be responding to those claims by the previous guest we had right at the beginning of the show around NSFAS. So looking forward to that conversation, right? Okay, let's move on now as we talk about the All African Alliance movement after this.
SAFM leading the conversation.
Okay, you may have heard about this already. Members of the All African Alliance movement have successfully challenged their expulsion from the MK party in the Western Cape. That's a movement we spoke to earlier on, remember, a few weeks ago, when they started this challenge. The AAAM party members, well, they've alleged that the MK party leader, Jacob Zuma, sidelined them after the May 2024 election. In fact, many said they're completely out of jobs as a result of that and effectively destitute. What's happened as a result of all this? Let's chat to Kenny Mapanga, who's the SABC News reporter who's covered the story. Kenny, good chatting to you, and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Okay, this seems to be like a significant day in court. What happened?
Well, Ashraf, you may remember the movement when they first surfaced in our political landscape. They wanted to be led by the retired Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. That obviously fell through, and then we saw that they approached the former President Jacob Zuma to, be the face of that movement. Now, what we understand from that particular challenge in the Western Cape High Court is that the MK Party and this movement formed some form of an agreement, which meant that the All African Alliance movement would have to abandon their activities as, movement of the clergy and religious leaders and traditional leaders, and of course the kind of support and base that these type of communities have ahead of those important elections. So they abandoned those activities under that banner of the AAAM. Then they joined the MK and start mobilizing. You remember the Jan 2024 announcements ahead of those main polls where they endorsed the MK party, a very important endorsement because it was coming from a significant number of communities of religious leaders who lead other communities as well as the clergy. Now, what we understand is that from that agreement, that when the polls would come through, that they would have a share of those electoral results or whatever the fortunes were. Now, we know that the MK party was very fortunate in the 2024 national provincial elections. At least nationally, they have about 58 seats. Now, it was the expectation that those two leaders of the AAAM would make it onto that candidate list, and they actually did. However, they said they were shocked to later find out, because you've seen, Ashraf, the numbers of shuffling that has happened in the MK party, as well as us seeing what we saw as the candidate list in the beginning versus the people that we're seeing sitting in the National Assembly now is quite different. So they were part of that original list, and they alleged that they were unfairly expelled from the political party to give way for these new entrants. So they went to the High Court and challenged that because they felt betrayed by the former president, because in their eyes they had a agreement ahead of those May polls, and they contributed, of course, to the mobilizing and, of course, the support that the MK would have enjoyed
Okay, so
during the 2024
very quickly
polls,
as we on to news time then, what then did the High Court ruling say, and what then are the implications thereof?
So the High Court has given an order. They haven't given reasons. So the High Court essentially has reviewed and set aside that expulsion, as well as the decision, or rather the refusal of the Speaker to swear in these particular members. So in their eyes, they are reinstated. And of course, speaking to Bishop Debe earlier, we are waiting to see what the Secretary of Parliament, how they're going to remedy this, as we know that those seats in the National Assembly, insofar as the MK party, have been filled, those 58 seats. So it's not clear how they're going to remedy this defect. Of course, there are no reasons now, but it is the High Court, so it's possible that an appeal could take place. But as we speak right now, Ashraf, there is an order reviewing and setting aside those decisions, as well as the expulsion of those two members of the AAAM. And in their eyes, as we speak today, they say they are reinstated.
Okay, and just short reply here. Do I take it that the MK party has not commented, or have they?
The MK party has not yet reacted to this latest development. As I've stated earlier, there aren't any reasons, but it is possible that if they feel that this order is incorrect, that they will exercise, I guess, their rights. It is open to them to appeal, but as we speak right now, there isn't any further development from the MK
thanks
party.
Thanks for clearing all of that up. Thank you. That's Kenny Mapanga, the SABC News reporter, covering the story of the All-African Alliance Movement members now. They've challenged, successfully so, their expulsion from the MK party in the Western Cape High Court. That sort of thing and debate in court happens every single day, doesn't it? Let's get the news headlines. It's just gone for 30 years on Della.
Thank you, Ashraf. News headlines at 4:30. A strong police contingent has been deployed at the Pietermaritzburg City Hall for a high-level meeting to try and resolve the week-long strike in the long-distance taxi sector in KwaZulu-Natal. A local headman and 3 of his brothers have been shot dead at Mendel location in Willowville in the Eastern Cape. They were travelling in a car towards the Willowville CBD when they were shot by occupants of another vehicle who had stopped them. And Deputy President Paul Mashatile, in his role as leader of government business, has written to National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza to inform her that the SABC bill has in fact not been withdrawn. And full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 in Alexandra has protest action with burning tyres reported at London Road. That's causing slow-moving traffic in both ways. The N1 southbound in Fairland is slow-moving towards Bayers Nodia Drive exit. Heavy traffic reported in the CBD area, especially around Noord Street taxi rank. Slow-moving traffic in the Crown City West area. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow-moving towards Samrand Road. In Pretoria, Eskempachleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street, and the N14 northbound has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound has heavy traffic towards Hummersdale exit. The N2 southbound has as a stationary vehicle after Umgeni Road reported. The N2 northbound has a pedestrian crash reported just before Queen Nandi Drive, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Mpumalanga on the N4, you're asked to expect delays and closures at the Limbombo border crossing due to unrest on the Mozambique side, so please do check before travel. In Cape Town, the R300 is where a crash is reported just before Van Riebeeck Road. The R300 northbound has a stationary truck on the link to the N1 outbound. Slow-moving traffic reported through the CBD city area, so expect delays. Plain Street is closed outside National Parliament, and Victoria Road is slow-moving through Camps Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
Right, to me, Mamelodi Sundowns have continental ambitions, don't they?
They do, and Mamelodi Sundowns coach Mangoba Mngiti has suggested that they could spring a surprise on Morocco Giants ASFAR when the two clash in the group stage of the CAF Champions League this weekend. The Brazilians are looking for their first win, having been held to a goalless draw by Manyema Union of the DR Congo in the opener, and Mngiti sounded very confident when talking about the trip to North Africa.
We're playing against a very good team in Morocco. That ASFAR has really done well over the past 3 seasons, if I look at it very closely. And but it will be interesting to see how they will want to play us, because we have a very nice approach for matches like this, because I think that's where we are stronger.
Well, still staying with football, Benny McCarthy has given more context to why his stint with English Premier League giants Manchester United ended after 2 years. The Red Devils parted ways with their forwards coach and 4 months later sacked manager Erik ten Hag, along with his entire technical team, replacing him with Ruben Amorim. Now, McCarthy had this to say when asked if there were any regrets given the latest development at Old Trafford.
No, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really my decision. Everything was just unfolding so quickly. The new ownership, new takeover. So obviously there was already that rumor in the air that the new owners, they are looking to bring in a coach of their preference, not a coach that they already found there at the club. So that was, and you saw in the off-season were them looking at few different options, and then at the end when they didn't get what they wanted, they go on. And my contract was also coming up to an end, and I was in conversations with the ownership, with the leadership.
Well, looking forward to hear where he's going up next. Then the 2025 Club World Cup draw will occur today in Miami. There are 4 parts. Mamelodi Sundowns is in part 4 alongside ES Tunis, Inter Miami of Lionel Messi amongst others. Part 1 is the danger part that has the likes of Real Madrid, Man City, Bayern Munich, PSG amongst others. And then part 2 has the likes of Chelsea, Borussia Dortmund, Inter Milan, while Al Ahly is in part 3 alongside the likes of Wydad Casablanca and Al Hilal. Now the draw will create 4 groups of 8 teams, with no group able to feature more than 1 team from the same confederation, and the top 2 teams in each group will qualify to the knockout stage. Elsewhere, Liverpool boss Arne Slot says that the club expect Mo Salah to continue for a very long time after his stunning performance in the 3-3 draw at Newcastle. Salah is out of contract at Anfield at the end of the season, and he did say last week that he was very disappointed by the club's failure to offer him a new one. In rugby, Sabelo Senatla is set to make a miraculous comeback for the Stormers, but Steven Kitchoff and Damian Willemse have been removed from their Champions Cup roster. Senatla has reportedly been cleared to play and is expected to feature when the Stormers face Toulon at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium on Saturday after being sidelined for 19 months with a severe arm injury from a car accident. The 31-year-old will reportedly bolster a Stormers squad that is without the services of Ben Loader. Then in the meantime, the Springbok Women's Sevens team will start their quest to regain their HSBC Sevens status in Cape Town in March next year, when the first 2 of the World Rugby's HSBC Sevens Challenger tournaments takes place in the mother city. World Rugby unveiled the dates and destinations of the 3 tournaments, where 12 men's and women's teams from all 6 global regions will battle it out for HSBC 7's promotion. Then in cricket, New Zealand named an unchanged team as they look to hit back in the second test against England, resisting the urge to recall batsman Will Young or field a specialist spinner a day after the visitors announced that they would play the same team that won the series opener in Christchurch by 8 wickets. The Black Caps followed suit for the match starting in Wellington tomorrow. 4 seamers will spearhead the home attack despite spin being the decisive factor in the most recent test at Basin Reserve. That's it. It is a wrap from us.
I want to ask you about Benny McCarthy. I mean, so he's doing the rounds, right? He's been on every single radio and TV channel in the country, including SAFM. He was on the Top Sport show, I think 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
So people should check out the podcast. Why? What's the coincidence? I mean, there's a plan there because he's got this big trophy with him, which is not his trophy. Like, do you know why he's doing this?
I think perhaps he's just told himself that, listen, this is my time that I'm going to.
No, I mean, okay, find out. I think it has to be part of a concerted campaign where they've allowed him access to certain media, many media, in fact.
What do you mean they allowed him access? Because clearly the media did want to talk to him.
But it's a coincidence that every media house can talk to him in 3 days.
Surely,
everybody.
Someone as big as Benny McCarthy has a plan.
Okay. My instinct says...
It's not like he was allowed to go to...
My instinct says that it was set up by a public relations company linked to something that he's involved in.
Of course.
That's what I'm saying. And therefore, he's offered to a media house to say, would you like to interview him? Of course, they're going to say yes. I mean, I would love to interview him. Absolutely, I would. In fact, I'll ask him about the first thing, which is like the swear word. And did he really mean that when he said your master? But I won't even repeat it because that like is his big line. Anyway. All right, I got you laughing. Let me leave it at that. We'll have more Benny McCarthy and everything else in another hour's time.
Ready.
Get ready to honor Madiba's legacy together. Join us on 8 December at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Gauteng, as we pay tribute to Nelson Mandela with the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run. There's a distance for everyone: 21 kilometers, 10-kilometer run, and a 5-kilometer scenic walk. Enjoy loads of entertainment and plenty of fun for the kids. If you can't be there in person, you can participate from wherever you are, uniting with thousands around the country to honor Nelson Mandela's vision of unity, equality, and a just society. All proceeds will support the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Register now at mandelawalkandrun.com. Let's come together to remember Madiba. In proud partnership with Gauteng Province, the City of Tshwane, and SABC Sport. See you there. Let's make it a day to remember.
Get ready to win big this holiday season with SAFM. Text Christmas to 41391 to stand a chance to win one of 12 amazing mystery prizes. SMS lines open on the 29th of November and close on the 24th of December 2024. Winners will be announced between the 26th and the 31st of December. Each SMS costs R1.50, so hurry up and send your entries now. Terms and conditions apply. Get into the festive spirit and win big with SAFM this Christmas.
Okay, it's finally December. Well, we're already a few days into that month. It's almost going to be Christmas, right? But it's time now to unwind. We know that. Now, with Outsurance Essential, you can really, really relax with your peace of mind, knowing that your older car is properly insured. Accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Add motor warranty as well, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. And you can get savings with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR, CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP T's and C's and information available online.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to the markets with Makwe Masilela, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good connecting with you as always. You've got some news on local and global markets as always. Go ahead.
Afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners. Yes, Ashraf, the U.S. Fed chair pointed to a stronger than expected economic growth, a robust labor market, and slightly higher inflation as reasons for the Fed to take a cautious approach towards finding a neutral policy rate, which is a rate that does neither stimulate nor weigh on economic growth. And ahead of the December interest rate meeting, incoming economic data, including the non-farm payrolls report, which is due tomorrow, are expected to play a key role in the Fed's rate decision process, and markets are brushing off the France government, which has been toppled. What probably reassures markets to some extent right now is that there's not going to be anything like a government shutdown in France, and traders are all but certain that the European Central Bank will cut rates next week. And Trump's pick of a crypto proponent to run the SEC lifted Bitcoin to over $100,000 US for the first time, and that is in rand terms. You're talking just over 1.8 million rands. And locally, our current account deficit was slimmer than expected in Q3, and that managed to benefit the rand itself. And apparently, OPEC Plus has decided to delay the restart of its oil production increases by 3 months, and this represents the third postponement as crude prices remain under pressure amid expectations of a surplus. Brent crude is up 0.3% at $72 a barrel, and gold traders held back from placing big bets ahead of the job numbers that could influence the interest rate path as markets awaited this year's final interest rate setting meeting. And we see gold is flat at $2,647, and just like platinum is flat at $943. And seemingly, Ashraf, there's still gas in the tank as we move through December and into 2025. Global stocks are positive, with the JSE up 0.5%, with our financials continuing to lead the charge, up 1.5%, and the rand firm to 0.6% against the US dollar, 1803, 23 against the pound, and 1906 against the euro.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And of course, we'll have another update from you tomorrow, Marquis. So you have a good evening indeed. I'll take your calls after this.
The Eagles want to emphasize how high they can fly with maximum points against the Citizens.
There's the header and there's the equaliser, and he has done it on the third attempt. This could be a big, big moment in the season of Crystal Palace.
However, the defending champions are navigating an ideal path back to the summit.
Grealish, and the shot is blocked, and the rebound goes in! City 2, Arsenal 2, right to the end!
This is the Premier League. Experience the spectacular action between Crystal Palace and Manchester City. This Saturday, 7 December at 5 p.m. Live on SABC 3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Charlie, when we asked you at the beginning of the show, is like, what is it that drives the national pulse, which really means what gets your pulses racing? I wouldn't know, and now I know. It's clearly going to be the whole issue about NSFAS. Nosipo, you've got a thought from Durban. Hi.
Thank you for joining in. Yes, my name is Nosipo. I'm from Durban, and I think I can slightly attest to the issue with NSFAS. Mm-hmm. I am a private accommodation owner, and yes, there have been a number of children, students rather, who really do have issues when it comes to payment for NSFAS. And I'm saying this because we actually formed a group with other private accommodation providers, and we can see, from the complaints and the numbers that this is actually something that's really happening. It's a common occurrence where you get from a house that houses about 10, 20 students, there is a certain percentage where they're actually having difficulties in terms of being funded due to whatever issues that NSFAS raises. And it does really create an issue when it comes to students.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. So what do they tell you? I mean, these students, when they're not getting their funding on time? Because, these are people obviously who've been cleared to receive funding, right?
It's a number of issues. With NSFAS, they're never straight. So for me, in my case, I've had to house a student for the whole year, rent-free, purely because NSFAS kept on making promises that, it's the issues are going to be sorted. It's technical glitches. It's what. Same with a number of other private accommodation providers. They make these excuses. But, come end of the year, you're sitting there with 40% of the students that have not been paid for, yet we've been accommodating them. So fortunately for some of them, we've been lenient, but yes, there are a number of students who are actually requested to evacuate the premises with no payments being received from NSFAS.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing it to our attention. We're going to have the NSFAS spokesperson coming up just now, just after the news, so listen out for that. But just the last thing to you, Nosipho, you're saying, is NSFAS never straight, or are the students never straight in terms of communicating what actually has happened?
NSFAS is not straight in terms of communicating as to what exactly is the issue or the hold-up when it comes to funds being released for those particular students, because you'll find that maybe during the first half of the year, they promise that no payment is going to come up. People just need to be patient. People need to wait, which is the same communication that's actually relayed to the students as well. But then along the line, then, other issues are raised. So I think NSFAS is just not being straight up when it comes to various issues that they face as an entity.
Couldn't you, and I don't know the rules here, couldn't you then engage with the student and then the third party, NSFAS, to the point whereby when they've approved the student, then the monies that they owe to the student for the accommodation gets paid to you directly? That means you have a second contract arrangement with NSFAS themselves, so that the students never have to worry about it, and you can chase it with NSFAS themselves. Could that not happen?
So in fact, that is a setup right now. There is a contract between ourselves, NSFAS, as private accommodation providers, NSFAS, and the students. Now, yes, we do chase up with NSFAS as well, but there was one case where I've had to query an issue regarding a student, and I provided all her details, and they said something about the POPI Act or whatnot, that no, this issue requires the students themselves to query and not me as a private accommodation dweller, because it requires sensitive information from the students. So now, you never know where you lie when it comes
unless the student gives permission. If they give permission for you to engage on their behalf, then that should be fine. But Nosipho, let's leave it at that. Thanks for enlightening us on really a troublesome, worrisome story. Absolutely. Hopefully we get some answers on that one just now, right? Thank you for that call. Appreciate you calling in. Here's another one on NSFAS.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Tabsum Bloemfontein. I agree with your guest there. NSFAS is causing or is creating a big problem for us. You come to Bloemfontein, you witness these students from universities. They have resort to prostitution, because sometimes they will run out of food, and NSFAS will pay late. So they are creating a problem for us, and these government officials that are in Bloemfontein are taking advantage of these young girls. They are capitalizing on this vulnerability of these young girls, the problem that is caused by NSFAS. These officials of NSFAS we should come strong on them. If they don't pay the students on time, their salaries should be withheld until they've done their job, or else I see problem here.
Okay, here's another one I'll play just before we get to the next guest, also on students.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Here in Brixton is a lot of student accommodation. You'll be shocked if you see how these NSFAS funded students drink alcohol. There is a liquor seat around me there. You'll be shocked. They drink like there is no tomorrow. So where do they get the funds if NSFAS is not paying for them? Why drink liquor if there is a shortage of money to study? They drink like there is no tomorrow. Yes, you can blame NSFAS. They drink like there is no tomorrow. I'm telling you, Norman from Brixton.
Well, thanks for that, Norman. 3 times you said that they drink like there's no tomorrow. I can't confirm or reject, but sure, it's a cause for concern, as many may suggest on that issue. Right, let's talk about another issue about technology driving some service delivery solutions in our country. Next up.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Right, so the condition of South Africa's government-owned assets and deteriorating infrastructure is a serious challenge. We all absolutely know that, to the point that it certainly impacts upon you and I in terms of service delivery, right? So let's talk now about one of the issues that could change things regarding issues of technology driving certain things that can change things around, and key issues like water management, hospitals, and logistics. So every day around this time we look at certain features that we touch on, and this time round we talk tech and innovation. So let's find out more about what Pragma can do. The Chief Revenue Officer at Pragma is Bani Hossana. Bani, good chatting to you. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Honored to be speaking to you. I've listened to you for a long time.
Well, much appreciated. Keep on listening, even after now, okay? Thank you.
Yes.
Right. What's the problem? What's the solution?
Well, I think the problem that I mentioned in an article that I wrote and published was that, you know, there's a perception in South Africa that the infrastructure deterioration that we see and often experience in our lives is some sort of insurmountable problem that is too big to manage. And I just wanted to raise the point that organizations like Pragma, where I am, are well equipped, are specialists in firstly understanding what it takes to maintain infrastructure, whether that be manufacturing equipment, water reticulation systems, electrical systems such as those at Eskom. There is there's deep knowledge right here locally in the country in organizations like ours that I believe, if used well at different levels of government, whether it be at the local level, provincial, and even national level, if we were to find ways of public-private partnerships, I certainly am confident that whether it is through the knowledge, providing the knowledge required to know about the development of maintenance strategies, or the implementation of sophisticated tech, digital technologies, some of which may or may not include AI, machine learning, which are the popular terms today, but there are well-developed, clear ways in which infrastructure can be managed properly to remain reliable and available to the public.
But when you talk about private-public partnerships, I mean, that seems to be a given. Yet, is there a logjam on that happening?
Look, I mean, in our experience, I think as a lot of organizations might attest, I mean, if you went into the government e-tenders portal, there would be no shortage of RFPs, RFQs, RFIs. I think what the lived experience is that we will often respond to those and then find that the process and the length of time that it takes goes well beyond the specified 120-day turnaround times. Often 3, 6, 9, 12 months later, if not longer, you're waiting for responses, which sometimes even never end up showing up, and so it just almost defeats the purpose of well-meaning organizations like ours who have the know-how and skill to then continue to participate in some of these procurement processes that don't seem to close out in time. So however it is that is done, some organizations put together panels of experts so that you have been pre-assessed to be competent, and therefore then those who need your services can then go on to those, use those as almost preset procurement processes to select the partner that they want to engage with and engage them with far shorter turnaround times. That's what I mean by public-private partnerships.
So quick one, I mean, what can Pragma offer in terms of solutions that, say, government, for example, is not using at its various levels of government?
So we've looked at as an organization and said that any issue really has the three components. The issue is either located around people in terms of their knowledge and know-how, or the processes in terms of ways of implementing well-developed, in this case, maintenance strategies. And then the third is technology. And across each of those, we have developed a set of products and capabilities, all of which require an initial assessment. Our flagship assessment is called an AMIP, which is an Asset Management Improvement Plan, where we basically assess what is your maturity level in terms of your management of your assets. And based on, it runs from a range of being in firefighting mode through to excellence. And within each of those buckets, you have items that either say that your issue lies around your information management, maybe it lies around your skills and capability or your technologies. And depending on where you sit, we can then draw roadmaps of that help you guide you from where you are currently to where you would like to be. And I think that's the main offering that we would be able to provide to anyone who needs our services.
Okay. Perhaps give me a website or a contact portal that I can share.
Ours is at www.pragmaworld.net. That is our website.
Pragma World, and I'm going to assume it means a very pragmatic world. That's my
guess. That's
anyway.
Correct.
Barney,
the .net, I think, is key.
Pragmaworld.net, right? Got that. Barney Khosana, and keep on listening to the National Pulse and everything else here on SAFM. Much appreciated, right? Barney Khosana is the Chief Revenue Officer at Pragma World, in fact, so pragmaworld.net. Okay, further comments. We've had thoughts on renewable energy. It's a big issue, as we discussed earlier.
Hi, Ashraf. At this rate, the judges of the High Court should just be made the GMs of power stations. I would like to see them running these renewable plants and supplying the country solely from them. For me, I get frustrated when judgments like this are made, and I always wonder if all the technical considerations were taken into into consideration by the courts before making such damning judgments. We all know renewables, it's a business thing, it's a money thing. It's not purely a technical discussion. And if you're going to have discussions like this, you're actually empowering another business over another. So, yeah, it's a very frustrating judgment. That's all I can say. And let's see. We have a very dark future if these are the judgments that are coming out.
Well, an interesting point you bring up. It's balancing out the rights of, in this case, in terms of the Constitution, and in this case, children's rights, balancing that out against what you talk about, business expediency and the practicalities of how we live our lives. But I mean, the key part around that is, as per the original conversation, and you can catch it as a podcast as well, they're talking about new plants, not existing plants, but you still see it as a way as meddling in that issue. I wonder, I did ask you about the W.H. Smith example and seeing established, in 1872, do you, when you find what year companies have been established or an institution, does that matter to you all in your decision making? You say, oh my goodness, man, they've been around for 300 years or 200 years, they must be really good. Or does that just swim over your head like it's completely irrelevant? I'd love to know. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to you. In this news update, high-level meeting over KZN taxi strike and French Prime Minister resigns. Good day to you. A strong police contingent has been deployed in the Pietermaritzburg City Hall in KwaZulu-Natal for a high-level meeting to try and resolve the week-long strike in the long-distance taxi sector in the province. Premier Thami Ntuli, the Transport MEC, members of the country's main taxi body, the SA National Taxi Council, and other bodies are in attendance. The meeting was set to include members of the Long Distance Taxi Association, who are surprisingly absent. The strike has left thousands of commuters stranded. The dispute is over operating permits and routes. A local headman and 3 of his brothers have been shot dead at Willowvale in the Eastern Cape. They were travelling in a car when they were shot by occupants of another vehicle who had stopped them. Police say the motive is not known at this stage. Police spokesperson Sipukazi Mawisa.
The motive for the shooting is unclear at the moment and will form part of the continuing investigation by the Provincial Serious and Violent Crimes Investigation Unit. Anyone with information that could lead to the arrest of the suspects is requested to contact SAPS Crime Stop number 08600 10111 or alternatively report to the nearby police station.
The Deputy President Paul Mashatile, in his role as Leader of Government Business, has written to the Speaker of the National Assembly to inform her that the SABC bill has in fact not been withdrawn. Last month, the Communications and Digital Technologies Minister, Salim Malatsi, withdrew the bill, citing the need for a credible funding model for the public broadcaster, which he said the bill doesn't adequately address. During a post-cabinet briefing in Parliament to the media today, the status of the bill was questioned. Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutsa Nchabeni.
The bill is an executive bill, and the leader of government business has written to the Speaker to indicate that the bill has not been withdrawn. And Minister Malachi has been advised that if he wants to withdraw a bill, he must make a submission. And Cabinet has accepted that there was no malice intended by Minister Malachi. It's part of the standard protocols that new ministers will get used to how Cabinet operates.
Former National Assembly Speaker Nosifiwe Mapisa-Nqakula has told the High Court in Pretoria that she will make an application with the court to travel to Botswana this month. She's been charged with 12 counts of corruption and one of money laundering in an alleged bribery case. She's currently out on bail and her case has been postponed to next month. State prosecutor Becky Manyati says she will have to apply for a new passport as the one surrendered to the state as part of her bail conditions is a diplomatic one.
The one that was surrendered was a diplomatic passport. She no longer holds that diplomatic status, so she's going to need to apply for a normal passport through the Department of Home Affairs. What we need as the state is an affidavit, because it has legal consequences.
The French Prime Minister Michel Barnier has delivered his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron. His government was ousted in a no-confidence vote in Parliament last night, the first time this has happened in over 60 years. The president is believed to want to move quickly amid the political turmoil to name a successor. The BBC's Hugh Schofield has more.
No word has leaked out about who the favoured candidate would be to take over from Michel Barnier. The president could make a choice of someone from a similar background as the outgoing prime minister on the centre-right. The defence minister Sébastien Lecornu, a Macron loyalist, has been mentioned. Or the president could look leftwards with someone who could try to build bridges to the Socialist Party, which is at the moment part of the left-wing alliance that helped bring Barnier down. The one thing that seems certain is that President Macron wants to move fast. The longer the power vacuum at the top, the shriller the cries from those calling on the president himself to step down.
The top story, a strong police contingent has been deployed at the Pietermaritzburg City Hall in KZN for a high-level meeting to try and resolve the week-long strike in the long-distance taxi sector in that province. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Coase.
In sports, SA Rugby refused to give up on equity deal and Hamilton bids farewell to Mercedes as Ferrari vie for title. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Northern Gauteng, the N12 eastbound in Bedford View is queuing towards the R24 highway split. Grayston Drive in Sandton is slow moving at the M1 highway. In Midrand, the N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and the N1 southbound has a stationary vehicle reported after Allendale Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound is queuing towards Hammersdale exit. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck at Key Ridge. The N2 southbound is a stationary vehicle after Umgeni Road, and the N2 northbound pedestrian crash reported before Queen Nandi Drive. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound is slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving towards Beaufort Circle. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Whatever your need for a personal loan, choose a bank that's best for your loans. Nedbank offers loans of up to 400,000 Rand at the best possible interest rate. And there's more. Open a MyGoals Plus or MyGoals Premium account and you could enjoy 200 Rand cashback every month for the duration of your loan term. That's up to 14,400 Rand cashback. Visit nedbank.co.za to apply for your tailored personal loan. See money differently. Nedbank. We are a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Mamelodi Sundowns ladies take on University of the Western Cape in the final match of the Hollywood Bet Super League on Sunday the 8th of December 2024 at 3 p.m. at the Lucas Moripe Stadium. Come early, dress to support the top women's teams and the crowning of champions. You stand a chance to win prizes. Gates open at 12 p.m. and tickets are free. If you can't make it to the Lucas Moripe Stadium, catch the game live on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net and at Hollywood Bets SL on X.
For 30 years, we've stood together, advancing collective action to end violence against women and children. But the fight is far from over. Your voice matters. Every action counts, from educating our communities to supporting survivors. It's time to unite and create a future free from fear. Join SAFM for 16 days of activism. Together we can make a difference. Together we can end the violence. Because 30 years of progress means we cannot stop now. Let's advance the fight. Stand up, speak out, take action. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, so we've had so many different conversations about many of the issues, and today, clearly, in terms of my daily question, what for you is moving the National Pulse, or what are the issues that are moving it? Today it's going to be the issues of NSFAS, and we've certainly touched on that from the early part of the day. Right now, you know the situation. We chatted earlier on to a guest about it regarding NSFAS and what their position may be. And then we thought, in fact, in the earlier conversation, we had Tebogo Letsi, the Parliament's chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, who made certain comments effectively suggesting that because of a shortfall in payment and slow payments to NSFAS, by NSFAS to the students, some of the students, many of the students, are forced to adopt sugar daddies to effectively keep things afloat. That's the accusation or the allegation, right? There's been a right of reply based upon that conversation. So we're going to move on and talk about just that. There are many other issues that are unclear about what happens next, which we will hopefully touch on some other time, and as soon as we get a moment or two around that issue, right? But I'll tell you what we do. Let's pick up on it now. I just want to check out, by the way, just for you who are asking about callers around some of the issues, I just want to check out to tell you that we'll play some of your voice notes and sound bites as soon as we can to 086 000 2032. Right, we do have now Stembiso Freeman Nomvala, who's the administrator at NSFAS, right? Stembiso, appreciate your time and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. We're glad you've availed yourself. I know you've got short time, so let's get to it straight up right now. You know, we had a chat with Tebogo Letsi, and this is what he said.
No, I do, and thanks for asking. I think you will know that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is created, to fund the poorest of the poor students. So we are accusing them of destroying these kids, these students' lives, because sometimes they send the allowance or they send the allowances late to the students. And when you grew up like us in poverty, where if you don't get this allowance from NSFAS, you literally have nowhere else where you can get food for that day. I think there was a TV during COVID, a TV documentary in one of the leading stations on TV where these kids at Tshwane North Tibet College were interviewed, and they were saying, because we do not have money, they've not given us our allowances. We are now left with no choice but to date this older man, even though we don't want to do so.
Okay, so that is the accusation or allegation coming from Tebogo Letsi, who holds an important position. He's the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. And I think it is in that context that best we get your thoughts on that, Stembiso.
Yeah, the first point to make, Ashraf, is that if you listen carefully to what the chairperson is talking about, he's referring to an interview that took place during COVID. And we all know when COVID was. And so some of those problems that were happening then and some in the recent past are part of the reason why the former minister decided to institute an administration so that those things can be attended to. But the social consequences for a desperate person who has not received his or her allowance, nobody can argue against that. But the point is that that's the reason why I was brought in to
address some of these issues, and we have tried this year to make sure that student allowances are paid to their bank accounts for TVET colleges, and they are paid on time. So yes, that has been a problem, and that problem may result to some of those issues. But we have been working on ensuring that that becomes a history as far as it's possible.
But I hear you, but yet, I mean, and I know references made to COVID times, but you know, Tebogo Letsi is really speaking in the present tense as well. You know, when they talk about the destruction of student lives, they are talking about today and not what happened 3 years ago.
But the incident he's quoting in relation to, so he's saying part of what needs to be done is to make sure NSFAS works and works well.
Okay.
That's what he's talking about in the present. And he says, the reason he says so is because he has been exposed, and he was exposed to that when? During those times. And I'm not suggesting that not paying allowances is something that is permissible or acceptable. But the point is that we've got to also appreciate that that is the problem that we've had to deal with, and substantially we've dealt with some of those issues.
What then is the state of NSFAS now in terms of paying over funding for education, and then the allowance funding? Meaning, if whatever the 100% is, how much of it gets paid every month, or at the end of the year, how much? And are there problems in terms of non-payment?
All of the students that have got where we've got all of the information relating to their status in terms of registration at universities, they are paid, and they are paid for in time. The issue that still remains as an issue that is quite problematic is the issue of student accommodation. That issue, we have dealt with substantial number of those issues, but we still pick up cases even today. I've got a communication that came earlier today that talks to a number of students in one of the provinces where that is still an issue. But on the allowances, that issue has substantially been.
Okay, so how big an issue is that? You know, what I'm saying, give us a sense of percentages. Out of 100% to apply for the student accommodation, how many of them get accepted? And from the accepted, how many gets paid out or not?
No, for all those that we've got legitimate claims in front of us, we pay. So once we've got the legitimate claims in front of us, we pay. But the essence of your question is, how many are likely to come up and tell me that they have not been paid? I don't know. I can't predict that. Because in the manner in which the onboarding was happening at the beginning of this year, and in which case the administration was not in place, some of the onboarding processes were very, very problematic, leading to a scenario in which when the student then, either the accommodation provider or the student submits the claim, it's difficult to verify that you are paying for the correct person. And you can't just pay. You need to make sure that you confirm that the person you're paying for is in fact a...
Well, I mean, I think that would make sense that you do just that. But as we get now to December, are you in a position now to say, and then maybe you don't have all the figures by you, but in principle, that with regard to accommodation, there are no students that should have their accommodation paid for, that is being paid for, are they being held back?
I've just said to you, I received a number of issues this morning where some students, in as far as their accommodation is concerned, it's coming up that it's been short paid. Okay. So you will pick up those cases, but those cases are now an exception than a rule.
So what's their recourse in a case like that, even now? I mean, can they contact you? What should they do?
In the case that a student finds themselves in a situation where their student has not been paid, they must contact their student leaders, and their student leaders know how to contact us, or contact there is a communication line that NSFAS has. But if they work through their student leaders, it facilitates the process. So it helps if there is such a case, that case is escalated through that mechanism.
I understand. I mean, I would assume there's a student representative council on just about every campus in the country. Now, we also had a call about 15, 20 minutes ago from Nosipho, who's from Durban, and Nosipho is a private accommodation owner, which ordinarily this conversation doesn't matter at all, but she made reference to her students effectively being funded by NSFAS, and this is what happened.
It's a number of issues. You know, with NSFAS, they're never straight. So for me, in my case, I've had to house a student for the whole year, rent-free, purely because NSFAS kept on making promises that, you know, it's the issues are going to be sorted. It's technical glitches. It's what. Same with a number of other private accommodation providers. They make these excuses. But, you know, come end of the year, you're sitting there with, 40% of the students that have not been paid for, yet you've been accommodating them. So fortunately for some of them, we've been lenient. But yes, there are a number of students who are actually requested to evacuate the premises with no payments being received from NSFAS.
Your response to that, Stembiso?
Yes. So one thing I can say is that it is unfortunate that there would be such a case in the event that case is in fact a legitimate case. One of the problems that we've picked up in this instance is that, and it happens across the provinces, is the onboarding process. So some students may not be funded necessarily by NSFAS, only to find that they get taken into an accommodation. Some, the accommodation, depending on whether that person is at a TVET college or is at a university, the accommodation money has been paid directly to the student. So the specific case that NOSIPO has would have to be looked at, and it would help if you've got the contact details of NOSIPO for us to get in touch with her so that we know what are the specific facts in relation to this case, and then it gets resolved.
Okay, I'm going to get you...
Because if you generalize on something specific, you might not be able to respond to the issue.
I'm going to get Keys, my producer, to connect you regarding NOSIPO, to connect the two of you guys. I know you've got a flight to catch. I'm very aware of it, right? Is there any final point you wish to make to reassure the thousands of people listening around the country that once you've been accepted to be receiving funding from NSFAS, that in fact you will do so, and that glitches can be sorted out so that you never have to be in this tremendous anxiety that many people have?
Two things that I would say in that regard, Ashraf, is that one, in the coming year, we want to make those decisions in time so that students don't have to wait for that decision for a long time. And also, we want to make sure that we control the onboarding process so that all of the students that are funded and have been onboarded properly, there is no waiting period in terms of paying of their allowances.
And when would that be? What sort of deadline would you set that it's all fine, all double-checked completely, if it's not at the end of the year?
In terms of making those decisions, Ashraf, would depend on the information from institutions. What we have created as a plan to deal with that is that we will be deploying a number of people at institutions, 2 people per institution to deal with accommodation issues and 1 person to deal with application issues. And that will help us improve the flow of information between ourselves and institutions to make sure that we don't have that problem. Okay. But putting time frame on that, when you're going to be waiting for information, is going to be a difficult thing. But we want to deal with those things at the beginning of the year rather than later in the year.
Okay, that's understandable for now. We'll certainly have another chat with you around NSFAS coming up in the new year.
Absolutely.
Stembiso Freeman Nomvalo, thanks for making up your time. I think we really appreciate that because we want to get clarity. This is the National Pulse. How else, when your pulses are racing, do we get to a situation that we reflect what is it that drives the National Pulse, right? Your comments based upon the comments you've just heard, I welcome them. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, text, voice notes, 0614 104 107. And as always, even if you don't want to call in, you can certainly post it on our Twitter feed, in particular on the X platform. Tag SFM Radio, tag me as well, Ashraf Garda. We will pick it up. What for you gets your pulses racing?
My name is Vusiwe intokazi yakwaNgcobo ufuze umapholo makhulu mashiya made engasazoshumayela. When last did I go to a party and how was the experience? I don't party at all. But my parents did have a 40th wedding anniversary as well as my mom's 60th birthday, so that was the last party I went to. Nothing beats partying with older people. It's a lot of fun. Can I sing a short verse of appreciation? What am I gonna sing? Holy, you'll always be. What do I like so much about SABC Sport? It's not even a like, it's a love. I love the fact that we're able to bring real stories to the people of South Africa. Catch
Watch the Queen of Mzansi Diski, Usiwe Ngobo, on match days, live on Laduma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Your ultimate football show is on your screen on Sundays. This is Safa TV, where every episode is packed with non-stop local football fire. We're bringing you all the latest from our junior and senior national teams. From fresh updates to the inside scoop on Safa and the stars of SA football. Catch Safa TV on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. on SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Okay, I will certainly take your calls as soon as I can. And don't forget, at 10 to 6, we have this feature we called Winning. We speak to someone who's absolutely winning. Right, let's have an update on this really worrisome story about the Sabi mine shaft rescue operations. Now, earlier today, Mpumalanga police said additional equipment had been secured to fast-track rescue operations at the mine shaft in Sabi and in Mpumalanga. Remember, there was about 150 people trapped under. Some people, yesterday we spoke about 3 people dying. What's the update on that? Motsebi Monareng is the SABC News reporter who's been covering that story. Motsebi, thanks for connecting with us here on the National Pulse.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. Can't be a very easy story to cover, but clearly you have to do it anyway, right? What can you tell us today?
Absolutely. It's one of the worrisome stories that we cover here. I can confirm to you now that we are sitting at 33 illegal miners who have been retrieved underground. You know that this mine shaft is about 180 meters deep going down. So at this point in time, what I see here, it means that the officials are now wrapping up the day, but you still have a lot of illegal miners that are still trapped underground. I believe that the reason why it seems as if the police operations, because the mine rescue team have left the scene because I think they were knocking off. It means that the police rescue team had to take over, but they were struggling to retrieve the people. I think for an hour they've been struggling to retrieve even one single person, but I can see now they are wrapping up. It means the operation will resume again tomorrow morning.
Okay, so you're saying about 33 or so roughly rescued. The total number we understand was about 150, so there's still another 120 odd that are underground. And yesterday we spoke about 3 people dying. Has that number changed, or is it just the 3?
No, the fatalities remain the same. It's 3 bodies that were retrieved so far, but all those that were brought up to surface after today, none of them was reported to be having a problem, because immediately when they are brought to surface, there's an ambulance where they will be taken there for medical attention. Immediately, if they are fine, they are taken into the police van, straight to the police station. So we were told by the police officers, by the police leadership, saying that they are going to be assessed immediately after that if they have came into the country illegally. So then processes will then follow. Some of them will then be deported from their country of origin, and those that are facing charges will then be facing charges, especially if they came in the country. Then it means they broke the Immigration Act.
Okay, I understand the police commissioner was there today. We're talking about Fani Masimola, right? What was his official response?
His official response is that when he got here, he was given information about this incident. And then he indicated to us that last week, on the 28th of November, community members tipped the K9 unit from Lightenberg to say there's a shooting here in Sabi. That's when they came to monitor the street. Apparently, when they came here, that's when the illegal miners started to shoot at the police officer, who also shot at them. Unfortunately, 3 of them were fatally shot. Then one of their members was also shot on the leg, but currently is recovering. He was also here with us. And then he told us that what happened is that the legal activities that were happening here, it means these people had some fight. That is why they started having some quarrel. They started shooting each other.
Okay.
Then the police, when they responded, that's when they realized that there is these illegal activities that are happening.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, so complicated. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us finally?
Basically, the issue of the illegal mining activities that are happening here, they are also affecting the tourism sector. Remember, when these people are operating around here, they will also take over the town of Sabi, your Pilgrim Rest, and other towns such as Graskop. So they are saying that communities are no longer safe. That is why these operations by the K9, the police, and other officials, they're saying that they were doing it over and over to make sure that they are clamping down these activities. But unfortunately, you can see if we have 150 foreign nationals in the country operating such illegal activities, that tells you that I think the law has to take course. They must come closer and fight this case.
Okay, got that. Let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time. Motsebi Monareng, the SABC News reporter covering the story at the Sabi mine shaft in Mpumalanga. About 150 people trapped under, but about 30-odd have been rescued. About 3 people have died. Well, not about, we know that 3 people have died. Right, let me take a few more calls and comments on some of the issues we've had. In fact, there's been one about Benny McCarthy, by the way.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Mohamedi from Midrand. I just wanted to help you with why Ben McCarthy has been giving a lot of interviews. So Carling Cup, the one that has been won by Magesi FC, have appointed Benny as their ambassador. So he just flew in the country to come and promote the cup that the game they're going to play on the 16th of December, which is against players voted by the supporters against the winners of Carling Cup, which is Magesi. So that is why Benny's been giving a lot of interviews. Actually, you are right. It's media campaign through Carling Cup as the ambassador. Thank you.
Well, there you are. There you are, our sports reporter reporting on Benny McCarthy. Absolutely. It could only be that, because that's what I felt, And I must be honest, when I watched it, my attention was drawn at Benny McCarthy in terms of his playing career and coaching Man United. Where's he going next? But there had to be the catch, because that dazzling Carling Cup trophy is next to him on every single photo you will see in the country. And if just by me mentioning it, Carling Cup has given them the coverage, well, you know what? That's how it works, because if you create media attention, and we talk about it, and there's talkability and share around that, then they've done their job, and they clearly have done so. Thanks for that, right? 5:30. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The Deputy President says government would like to see a significant number of registered spaza shop owners being South African. A strong police contingent has been deployed at the Pietermaritzburg City Hall in KZN for a high-level meeting to try and resolve the week-long taxi strike in the province. And the Executive Director of Amnesty International SA says she hopes South Africa will use their report as evidence in its case against Israel before the International Court of Justice. More on that story and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. The R24 westbound in Edenvale, queuing at the Edenvale Road exit. The N12 eastbound in Bedfordview is queuing towards the R24 highway split. In Pretoria, Eskimpa-Hleli Drive northbound has delays towards Mabopane Highway, and the N14 northbound has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the M4 northbound queuing towards Virginia Airport. The N2 northbound has pedestrian crash reported before Queen Dundee Drive. The R102 southbound is slow moving. That's towards the M25 Commercial Highway, and Chris Hani Road westbound slow moving at the N2 highway. In the Free State, on the N1, a truck crash reported south of Ventersburg. In Mpumalanga on the N4, you are to expect delays and closures at the Lebombo border crossing due to unrest on the Mozambique side, so please do check before travel. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N1 inbound has a crash reported after Lower Church Street. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Kromboom Road. The N7 Jakes Harold Drive southbound is slow moving towards Beaufort Circle, and the R300 northbound has a stationary truck on the link to the N1 outbound. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, to me, you got your eyes on the cricket, I
Yes,
think, and a whole lot more too, right?
I do, and the last time I saw the score, South Africa was sitting on 269 for 7. This is against Sri Lanka, but I'm seeing all the players just coming off the field. I guess perhaps it's the end of the day, but we'll definitely see as the action unfolds on the TV as we are watching this live action. Obviously, this is a very important game for both sides as they're looking to keep their World Test Championship hopes alive. And then in rugby, SA Rugby have defended its proposed equity deal with the Akeli Sports Group, describing the 1.4 billion rand investment as vital for the sport's sustainability in South Africa. The deal would grant ASG a 20% stake in SA Rugby's commercial arm, but it requires a 75% majority vote from South Africa's 13 rugby unions to pass. Now, speaking yesterday, SARU President Mark Alexandra emphasized that the deal was not for personal gain, but to secure rugby's future amid economic challenges. The unions will vote tomorrow with just 4 opposing votes sufficient to block the deal. Meanwhile, Mfundo Ndlovu will make a welcome return to the Springbok 7 squad in Cape Town this weekend, while the uncapped Zenda Reyners is in line to make or to become a Blitzbok after he was included in the HSBC 7 squad. The inclusion of the duo by Blitzbok head coach is the only changes from the squad that played in the season opener in Dubai last week. In football, SAFA President Danny Jordana and his co-accused Ruani Kluyo and Trevor Neethling made a brief appearance at the Palm Ridge Magistrate Court earlier today. They are facing charges related to corrupt activities that allegedly occurred between 2014 and 2018. During this time, Jordan is accused of using SAFA resources for personal gain, and the case has been postponed to next Tuesday. Meanwhile, South African Under-17's goals coach Ntombi Khumalo says that a SAFA Under-17 Women's Championship is crucial as it forms part of the preparations for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifiers that are starting in January next year. Khumalo says that the regional tournament will help countries fine-tune their strategies ahead of getting on the world stage.
It's very important because the challenge is not the same. I mentioned some of them, they have experience for under 15 competition. This is under 17, where every country is preparing for World Cup qualifiers. They bring their best, they understand the stake, and it's not an easy one, I don't want to lie, because when you want to qualify for World Cup, such competition help to find yourself good. Are you ready, or you need to change, or you need to, whatever you have, you must make sure you do the right thing, whatever decision in terms of helping these youngsters to be the best in the world.
In motorsport, Lewis Hamilton bids farewell to Mercedes this weekend as his future outfit Ferrari looked to snatch a first constructor's crown in 16 years from McLaren. Sunday's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will mark the end of an era as the 7-time champions end a remarkable 12-year spell with silver arrows and a 26-year association with the Mercedes brand. Just finally, it is stumps, and South Africa finishing on 269, right, for 7. Yeah, 269 for 7 against Sri Lanka, and the action continues tomorrow. With that said, it is a wrap from us.
I want to ask you something, not about the game, but I mean something that got me thinking. So they lost the 6th wicket, and then there were like about 4 overs to go, and they brought on Marco Jansen to come in. And they just and then of course they lost him. He was coming in, and then they lost him to get out as well. Which you hope you don't lose another wicket. And you know, in cricket terms, normally when you lose a play, when a good player gets out and there's still 5 overs to go, and you want to not have another good player losing their wicket, you have a night watchman to try and stick around. Whether that applies to any other sport, has any other sport got that sort of? It's an anomaly where if a player loses a wicket, a team, and there's a few overs to go, and you don't want to sacrifice another big wicket. So let's say the number 3 batsman's out. You don't want the number 4 to come in to keep him for tomorrow in case he goes out today. So they have this night watchman that comes in. Is that done in any other sport in the world? I am scratching my bald head. I don't know. If you know, let me know. If anybody else knows, let me know. There we are. The night watchman. Sounds like the Knight Rider. But anyway. Okay, you better say your goodbyes.
Yeah, Tuming Khapele, Modimo Keo.
Africa Zonga's visitors, England, believe only victory will bring joy to the English. However, the Proteas are highly spirited to triumph. What a summer without cricket! This is the One Day International Series, where summer cricket comes alive. Catch the glittering women's second ODI clash between Africa and England on Sunday, 8 December at 9:40. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus and Radio 2000, with reports on various SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Eagles want to emphasize how high they can fly with maximum points against the Citizens.
There's the header and there's the equaliser, and he has done it on the third attempt. This could be a big, big moment in the season of Crystal Palace.
However, the defending champions are navigating an ideal path back to the summit.
Grealish, and the shot is blocked, and the rebound goes in! City 2, Arsenal 2, right to the end!
This is the Premier League. Experience the spectacular action between Crystal Palace and Manchester City. This Saturday, 7 December at 5 p.m. Live on SABC 3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, we have a big show coming up in terms of the markets. SAFM's Market Update, hosted by Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, to set the scene, you're going to tell us what's moving markets. And I see it says BTC, which is not LBW. It can only mean Bitcoin. Tell me about it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. It is certainly Bitcoin. We've crossed the $100,000 Rubicon or threshold, however you want to look at it. We are at $102,000 US dollars for a Bitcoin at the moment. We're getting ever closer to that 2 million rand level for a Bitcoin. It's currently at 1.839 million rand for one Bitcoin. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at what it means for the crypto landscape. Obviously a significant milestone, something that we've been waiting for quite some time, but alongside that we're going to also take a look at the developments around the SAA strike, obviously that having a significant impact on the travel arrangements of individuals. And we're going to take a look at what this means going into the festive period, the December period, and what we could potentially see as an outcome from that. We're also going to take a look at some developments from the SME space. We've got a conversation with a small medium enterprise, as we do every Thursday. We try to spotlight SMEs and showcase the good work that they're doing. And then we've got a conversation with Standard Bank around preparing for the holidays, particularly looking at your insurance side of things. If you are traveling, if you're planning to travel, what kind of measures you might want to put in place to protect your valuables while you are away. Before we get to that, markets have had weirdish kind of day. The gold price certainly reacting to what's been happening on the crypto side of things, but markets in general also kind of moving. If we look at Asian markets that were trading first, the only Asian market that traded in the red was the Hang Seng in Hong Kong. It was down 1.04%. The mainland China index eked out about 8 basis points of gains. The Nikkei in Tokyo is up about 1/3%. The CAC 40 in France about 1/10% in the green. The FTSE in London 6 basis points down, but the DAX in Germany about 0.5% in the green. Our own local markets were quite mixed. Resources down 1.06%, but financials cancelling that out, up about 1.5%. Industrials up 0.8%. As a result, the all share up 2/3%. The top 40 up 0.75%. If we look at the currency side of things, gold, the rand against the US dollar, 18 rand and 6 cents, getting closer to that 18 rand level. 23 rand and 1 cent against a British pound, back above 23 rand, and 19 rand and 6 cents against 1 euro. 1 Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 61 cents. If you're looking at commodities pricing, as I said, gold price not doing too well, 0.75% down now, $2,635 odd dollars. If we look at the Brent crude price, $72.80 a barrel. Platinum and palladium still below $1,000. Palladium having the worst of the days there, $974 an ounce. And as I said, Bitcoin price back above 100,000 or above 100,000 for the first time, and we are at 102,000 or just over 1.8 million rand for a Bitcoin. We're going to look at these and other stories a little later on. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, and just before I end, your quick answer in terms of the daily masterclass. I know what an American auction is, but what is a Dutch auction?
It is a very interesting method of conducting an auction, essentially, where we typically think about an auction as individuals coming in, bidding for something, and the highest bidder kind of wins. A Dutch auction, you do almost the opposite. So you start at a very high price, and that price incrementally gets lowered until a bid is placed. Dutch auctions are typically used for treasury auctions. The US does use it for US treasuries, and effectively what it allows them to also do from that perspective is it allows them to get in good bids in terms of those that are looking to pick up the treasuries, but at the same time you don't really know what price you're going to buy at, so keeps a bit of mystery in there, I suppose.
And that opening bid comes much later than the opening bid at any other auction. Now I got it. Thank you for that. Enjoy your show 6 to 7 this evening as you want to get into the markets, right? Okay, I'll take your calls after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, further comment about the learners.
Ashraf, it's Simpiwa here. I actually disagree with this gentleman. Because, I mean, once you put people together to do the same thing, a group of people together to do the same thing, you're already setting up a competition. That's a competition on its own. Automatically, it becomes a competition. So to me, I think South Africa have done poor. You know, I meant to be the last in that competition. I meant to be number Z59 other 59. So it's quite a bad performance, Ashraf. Yeah, we've done quite badly. So we've lost the competition, and the gentleman shouldn't deny that, because I mean we're already in a competition. Yeah. Thanks, Ashraf. Bye.
Thank you. Well, although he then said that's just for the countries that competed, there are many others who are not in the 59 at all, and there are certainly more than another 100 countries that fall into that bracket. So in effect, it'd be 59. It's 59 out of 150 odd plus, so maybe we're not so bad. Just another way to take it, right? Here's another one.
Yeah, you see, Ashraf, for a country such as ours performing badly in mathematics and science, the teaching language, it's a problem, because we as blacks in general, we are not taught these subjects in our own language. Hence, the Africans learners, if you like, would perform better because they are taught in their own mother tongue language. That's the problem. Thanks. It's really here in Kuma.
Thank you for that. They're not just told that, they also then examined in that, and I think that is significant, isn't it? Right, we had that earlier chat about sugar daddies.
Hey, Ashraf. South Africa has got social ills, and one of them is older men dating younger women. I also studied with NEFSAs, and sometimes NEFSAs paid late, but I've never had a sugar daddy because I've got my own values. So people can't just come up with these things and judge everybody to say if NEFSAs paid late and did not pay, then you don't have a choice but to have a sugar daddy. I don't think that's correct, actually. It's just a generalization of women that if we don't have things, now we're using our private parts to get other things. No, it can't be right. Thanks, Bongi here.
Well, thanks for that, says Bongi. And I think that's the point that I brought up earlier on. Like, we understand there's two issues. There's a non-payment. There are people needing money to survive. There's male, there's female, there's older people, there's younger people. But to make the non-payment link and suddenly say, because of that, the sugar daddies, and they can't give us information in terms of what percentage, what numbers. It's all just anecdotal of a few people. I think there needs to be a fuller investigation. I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but is it as widespread as it's been led out or made out to be early on? I don't really know. Okay, let's talk about Arsenal Football Club. Do we really want to talk about them?
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is from Bloemfontein. I do check when a company or a product was established. For me, it gives me what can I say, a satisfaction or a guarantee that it is a well-kept brand or a well-run company with good history that is traceable. You can check how it has developed along the years. And finally, I was reading about Arsenal, how it was formed, Arsenal Football Club, how it was formed, and by who, and how it is now as a club. So it has a good history, a good legacy. So I do check things like that.
Okay, well, there you are. Thanks for that. That's exactly the point. Does it matter to you? Do you actually see those words EST established and what year? And when you're following a football club or when you're buying goods or being provided a service, does that actually matter to you at all? And many of the older companies in the world would have that, established not 5 years ago, but like 150 years ago, 300 years ago. Talking about Arsenal, I can tell you what, Keys is not wearing his Man United top today. Temba should be wearing his Arsenal top after last night. And I'm not kidding you. I've had a few people who are listeners. They know who they are. They bothered messaging me because they got my number at midnight last night after Man United lost to Arsenal, and they want to basically guara me. Guara, they want to tease me at midnight. Like, do I really need to respond to them at midnight when my team lost? It happened, but you guys know who you are. Okay, let's rep one more comment, but something I think is more serious about the goings on in South Korea.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Well, for me, the pulse is thumbs up to South Korea's president and the opposition parties there. Because for me, it looks more like counterintelligence that is meant to prevent Putin and Kim Jong-un from outsmarting them. Kim Jong-un has for a very long time been wanting to annex South Korea because he's jealous of South Korea's capitalist economy, which is more industrialized and bigger in terms of numbers than his communist economy. So it's all about annexing South Korea and then nationalizing everything and forcing South Koreans to work for his communist government that's only good at manufacturing firearms.
Okay,
thanks, Lionel Whitbank.
Thanks, Lionel. We need to sign you up as our global political analyst. I'm just saying, hint, okay? Thank you for that. Interesting goings-on in South Korea. And I know we haven't paid a lot of attention to that. Sometimes it genuinely is a case of we don't have enough time in a 3-hour show to look at local priorities, global priorities, and other things we need to cover. So we haven't quite done that. We may well do that soon. Now, what we will do next is we end with a feature called Winning. And it's a fascinating success story of a person or an organization linked, of course, called Sausage Saloon. You got that?
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, in the feature we called Winning, we speak to a person, a business, an institution that are at the very top of their game, and we just celebrate them, right? And today we talk to Tsidi Majeke Dlungwane, who is leading the Sausage Saloon, you know them, right? Their expansion into Mauritius. It's a fascinating story, and also just linked to that, has ensured that she is a finalist in the Standard Bank Top Women Awards of 2024. There's a lot that's happened. Let's find out what the trajectory was, right? So with me, Tsidi Majeke Dlungwane, founder, CEO of the Stenda Group, and now the successful franchise owner in Mauritius, right? Tsidi, appreciate your time and good talking to you.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, well, you seem to have a fascinating story, so I'll allow you 2 minutes to tell us about your journey.
All right, so I am from Pretoria. I was born in a township on the east of Pretoria called Mamelodi. I studied engineering at the University of Pretoria, then went on to work for Anglo American in Mpumalanga. And then I decided that employment is not for me after 5 years of working, and I resigned and opened my own business where I was providing services to the mines. That's where Stenda Trading was formed. And then as business grows and it progresses, I realized I don't have much business acumen. I'm an engineer, but business-wise, I don't know much. So I went to study at the University of Pretoria's business school, GIBS, where I did my MBA. And that's when Stenda was growing as well. So, when your business grows, you like new opportunities present themselves. So that's why it moved from Stenda Trading to Stenda Group. Stenda Group, we have the resources part, the mining part, and now we have the finance part as well, where we offer financial assistance. For now, it's still only for our employees, but we offer them financial assistance short-term and like maybe asset financing as well. So all was good and well, and COVID happened. And when we're like all business owners, we were all at the edge of our seats to say, what will happen to me? What will happen if things don't work out for me? And then we decided, my husband and I are business partners, so we decided that we need to diversify. I feel like diversity is not, like a lot of business strategies will tell you diversification is not a good idea, but after COVID, I think a lot of that needs to be relooked at. People will advise you on vertical integration, but once your market is affected, then you lose everything. So we decided that we were looking into diversifying. And then we went to Mauritius on a family trip last year with our kids. And Mauritians love food. That's one thing we realized. They love their food. So we decided that, this place is developing so well. We're interested in pursuing business opportunities there. And then divine intervention happened while I was just on Google in January this year. I came across an advert where they're saying Sausage Saloon is looking for a master license holder in Mauritius. So I saw that as the answer to whatever it is that I was thinking about. And then I approached them, and one thing led to another, and here we are. So we opened our first store in Mauritius of Sausage Saloon. We plan on opening 12 within the first 2 years. And so far, our first store has actually outperformed what we were actually thinking it will do. So we're happy about that. We're looking forward to a great business venture in Mauritius, and we're excited about that as well.
Okay, and of course, clearly you've diversified completely. So you've got the Sausage Saloon, and then you've still got your interest in mining, right?
In the mining, yes. We're still in the mining very much. So that's where the Top Women Award was for. It was for the mining business.
I understand. How then do you manage that? Meaning that they are so. I understand the reason for diversification. Your point makes absolute sense. But in the practical application, in terms of you keeping your eye on two very, very different things, how you manage to do that?
I've surrounded myself with a great team. So Team Stenda is an amazing team that my business is able to function with or without me. And wherever I am in the world, I'm able to be in contact with my team and just have my finger on the pulse at all times. And in Mauritius, I've got two amazing managers that are running things for me there while I'm back and forth between South Africa and Mauritius.
So that great team is important. How do you identify a great team? Because, I mean, that's part of this feature we call winning, is in getting the great team, you have to pick out the winners, right? How do you go about doing so?
I'd say it's people who are striving to become something themselves. They're not just looking for a job and to just, pay bills and die. It's people who want to reach certain places like in their personal lives as well. Those people make a great team because then they will work hard for you. And obviously you'd have to recognize, appreciate, and reward them. But it's people who want to see themselves succeed. So I feel that's the winning formula.
Okay,
it's people who are curious and want to succeed.
All right, so best wishes with the Sausage Saloon. Let's go back to Stenda. I mean, so that's the one you were nominated for the Standard Bank Top Women of the Year awards. I mean, that's fabulous just to get a nomination, as you know, and I know, is just formidable, right? How, in that journey when you started, as you said, from your engineering background, I mean, when did you know you've made it? I mean, what decision did you take that finally put you on the path of success there?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I don't think I can say I've made, but like the thing that I say, it's because, you know, when I decided that I'm going to go into business, I decided that from the stage that I open and I start operating, I will offer the best possible service to my clients. And that's how we have managed to grow at the scale that we've grown. We've gone from 8 employees in 2016 to over 300 employees 8 years later. I'd say the secret to success was that we make sure that we solve our clients' pain points and we provide exceptional service.
Give me one example of how you've solved the problem.
For example, when we go into business with, like, for example, we are in business, a lot of business with Exaro Resources. What we do is we become part of solving their CSI initiative, like we partner with them and resolve some of their community issues and take over some of their CSI initiatives. Because, you know, communities in mining towns sometimes feel neglected. So we come in and we play our part together with the people that we're serving.
Okay. And in terms of growing your own business, what's the best advice you've received that you then took?
I'd say, you know, like, everybody might look like they have it together, but we're all still trying to figure it out. So do it with confidence, do it well, and do your best. And you know what, never be afraid of asking as well. Like, there are people who've gone before you who have done it, so ask. Find out how they've done it and, you know,
I think you're right there. It's amazing how many people don't ask, right? Because they just think, you know, they'll never tell me, but you just open your doors. But here's the last thing. Do you agree, and I think you've alluded to that already, when you are successful, there's a better chance that more business will flow your way than when you're just knocking on doors for the first time, isn't it?
That's very true. If people don't know you, nobody is willing to take a chance on you, really.
Okay, let me leave you to your business, because you're 2 businesses and I can't take about a minute more of your time because you've got some of your own deadlines. But great chatting to you and well done, and love talking to winners, because, you know, winners collectively build the champions that build a champion nation. I always say this, you know what, when you win, South Africa wins. So you've done just that, and that's fabulous. So Tsidi Majeke Dlongwane, founder, CEO of the Stenda Group, and now running this franchise. They've just started at the Sausage Saloon. Keep an eye on that, not just in South Africa, but certainly when you go to Mauritius, because you know it circles back to you know who started it there. That's the show. That's the National Pulse. Again, the big issue that moved the National Pulse today, undoubtedly, the issue of NSFAS. What will it be tomorrow? Think about it. Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Hoos.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Mashatile speaks on Spaza shops in a high-level meeting over KZN taxi strike. Good evening. The Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, says government would like to see a significant number of registered Spaza